Good morning. We are about to get started. So good morning, fellow commissioners, Chief McDonald, Executive Director Django Sibley, Inspector General Matthew Barragan, Managing Senior Assistant City Attorney Carlos de la Guerra, Madam Secretary, and members of the public. Today is Tuesday, August 11th, 2026. It is 10 a.m. This is a regular meeting of the Los Angeles Board of Police Commissioners. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Good morning. Please let the record reflect Commissioners Shield, Tabor, Aubrey, and Scobin are present, and we have a quorum. Madam President.
Thank you. We welcome everyone attending this morning, both in person and online. We want to ensure all members of the public can access our meetings. So if you need any translation services or accommodations, we encourage you to contact the board secretary in advance of our meetings, as explained in our written agenda. These meetings are regular meetings between the board and the department. We welcome feedback from the public during the public comment period, which will be heard during item number 3 on the agenda. Public comment is your opportunity to address the board. You can speak to any item on the agenda or any matter within the jurisdiction of the Board of Police Commissioners. We will dedicate a total of 45 minutes to public comment. If you are called as a speaker, you can have a total of up to 3 minutes to speak if you wish to speak on both agenda items and general public comment as explained in the written agenda. While we welcome public attendance at our meetings, disruptive behavior will not be tolerated and will be cause for removal. You will receive just one warning, and if you continue disrupting the meeting, you will be asked to leave and be removed from the meeting. And thank you all for your patience, both in person and online. We were delayed again because of technical issues with our microphone. We are hoping this will get resolved permanently in the next couple of weeks. But thank you for your patience. And before I move on to item number 1 on the agenda, I just want to welcome our newest commissioner, Heather Aubrey, to her first commission meeting. I looking forward to working with you. And with that, we can move to item number 1 on the agenda, the report of the Chief of Police, Chief McDonald.
Okay. Good morning, President Shields, Commissioners, Inspector General Barragan, City Attorney de la Guerra, and Executive Director Sibley. Today's report will cover the 2-week period since our last meeting on July 28th. I'll highlight key events, share our current crime stats, and provide an update on our current staffing levels. Since our last meeting, there have been 1 officer-involved shooting. As of today, the department has recorded 12 officer-involved shootings in 2026, compared to 26 during the same period in 2025, reflecting a 53.8% decrease for 2026. On July 29th, at around 6:25 p.m., uniformed patrol officers assigned to Olympic Division responded to a radio call of an assault with a deadly weapon suspect at a gas station located at Normandy Avenue and Washington Boulevard. The reporting party stated that the suspect, armed with a metal baseball bat, shattered the windows of multiple vehicles and attempted to strike passing community members. As officers approached the location, the air unit overhead advised the officers that the suspect was walking southbound on Normandy Ave beneath the Interstate 10 freeway. Officers located the suspect walking toward them while holding a bat in his right hand. After getting out of their patrol vehicle, officers repeatedly ordered the suspect to drop the bat. The suspect refused to comply with their directions, continued advancing toward the officers, and raised the bat with both hands into a swinging position, resulting in an officer-involved shooting. The suspect was struck once, fell to the ground, and dropped the bat. Officers formed an arrest team, took the suspect into custody, and immediately rendered medical aid until personnel from Los Angeles Fire Department arrived and assumed care. The suspect was transported to a local hospital where he was later pronounced deceased. A 35-inch aluminum softball bat was recovered at the scene and booked as evidence. No officers or community members were injured during the incident. Force Investigation Division personnel responded to the scene and assumed investigative responsibility. On a different issue, I would like to provide an update regarding illegal street takeovers in our city. I previously discussed an incident that occurred on July 26th in the North Hills area of Los Angeles, where a black Chevy Capri struck 2 spectators, resulting in a head injury to one and near amputation of a leg to the second individual. The driver of the vehicle fled and was subsequently identified by Valley Traffic Division personnel as 21-year-old Benjamin Witt. On August 6th, investigators from the U.S. Marshals Apprehension Task Force responded to Santa Barbara, where they determined that Witt sold the vehicle that struck both spectators. Officers continued their investigation and located Witt in Huntington Beach, where they arrested him. The district attorney's office subsequently charged Witt with 2 counts of felony hit and run resulting in injury to another person. These incidents dramatically highlight the public safety risks that illegal street takeovers present to community members of the city and the serious injuries that can occur to those who actively participate in these incidents, as well as innocent bystanders. The Los Angeles Police Department will continue to aggressively address this issue through coordinated enforcement operations with our law enforcement partners. We'll continue to identify organizers and repeat offenders in an effort to hold those involved accountable while simultaneously attempting to deter those who would seek to engage in similarly unlawful and dangerous behavior. We will actively continue to seek criminal prosecution in cooperation with the District Attorney's Office and continue to conduct vehicle impounds whenever authorized by law. The department recently decentralized the Street Racing Task Force, which will better enable our officers to conduct enforcement and intelligence gathering in a more proactive and responsive manner. Detectives will work together with officers to investigate these incidents to disrupt illegal street takeovers before injuries or other acts of violence occur. As with any criminal activity, we welcome the public's assistance in reporting these incidents to curtail this dangerous activity to help make the roadways that we all travel upon safer. And to parents out there listening, this is something to really pay attention to. The activities that we see as a result of these street takeovers involve shootings with injuries and potential life-threatening circumstances for people who are there just watching. And so know where your kids are and what they're doing is my recommendation, because we have gang activity, we have people coming in from all over the place that have no stake in this community, but come in and do whatever damage they do and then leave, and we're left to deal with the aftermath of that. So thank you for the consideration on that. On August 7th, LAPD SWAT personnel helped serve a multi-location arrest warrant for 2 individuals identified in multiple armed robberies in Newton Division and the city of Long Beach. One of these robberies was an off-duty Long Beach police officer that resulted in an officer-involved shooting. Ramey and search warrants were issued to 2 suspects in conjunction with this investigation. LAPD SWAT served a surround and call-out warrant and took one of the suspects into custody without incident. Long Beach Police Department served a warrant for the second suspect that also resulted in his successful apprehension. Both suspects were booked for robbery. To continue providing protest updates as you had requested, I have information related to one notable event that occurred on August 8th around 10 p.m. in Central area involving a protest near the Metropolitan Detention Center. A group of approximately 15 to 20 individuals followed 2 federal detention officers into a nearby parking structure where the officers were assaulted.
Okay. For everyone in the room, this is the first warning for everyone in the room.
No, we're not gonna let you die before a peaceful.
Ma'am, this is your first warning.
We have video evidence and everything.
Okay, then you are disrupting the meeting. There will be an opportunity for public comment section. This is not the time for public comment.
Chief Mercado, let your people know you're not.
This is your first warning. You are disrupting the meeting. We are unable to proceed with the meeting as is.
I'm leaving.
So,
I'm leaving. I'm letting you know I'm leaving. But that's not gonna stop. There is enough video evidence that those people, those agents off duty, attacked.
ma'am, you are asked to leave. You are disrupting the meeting.
I'm leaving. We don't give a fuck anymore what you think. We're here for our people and we're gonna defend everything. I'm leaving. I'm leaving. I'm letting you know I'm leaving. Fuck you, Chief Mercado. You're right.
All right.
Fuck you.
Ma'am, that is your first warning. I've already instructed everyone here that you will have an opportunity to speak during the public comment section unless I have to clear the entire room, and then we'll have to proceed with the entire meeting without people. And so, okay, I'm going to try this one more time. We will try to proceed with the meeting, and if you continue to disrupt this meeting, we will clear the room, and the entire meeting will happen without people. And, sir, you are disrupting the meeting. That's your first warning. Sir, okay, you are asked to leave the meeting.
I'm leaving the fucking meeting, but you're not lying to the people. That's all you do every day. You lie every single day. That's why you want to have a private meeting, so you can lie to the community.
Right.
Fuck you, LAPD's booty cup bitches. That's what you are, corrupted motherfuckers. Fuck you.
You guys aren't bragging all the time.
Corrupted motherfuckers. Bootlickers, like the air bootlickers. Fuck you, I'm talking.
That's right.
Fuck you, child molesters.
We'll try this one more time, Chief.
Okay. LAPD responded to the ensuing help call. Unfortunately, the suspects from the assault fled prior to the arrival of LAPD officers. One of the federal detention officers was transported to a local hospital for medical treatment of injuries that he sustained during the assault. During the incident, one arrest was made when an individual was armed with a large flagpole and a cylindrical object with numerous screws inside of it, refused to comply with officers' directions. Major Crimes is investigating the felony battery on federal officers, and investigators are also examining the cylindrical object that was recovered. Crime for the week ending August 8th. Overall, citywide crime trends remain favorable with continued year-to-date reductions across every major crime category, including homicides, shootings, robberies, burglaries, and motor vehicle thefts. All analysis is based on officer count, offense count, except for homicide and victim shot through August 8th. Compared to year-to-date to 2025, combined persons and property crimes are down 10.4%, with persons crimes down 4.6% and property crimes down 12%. Homicides have decreased 8.8%, or 13 fewer victims year-to-date. Victims shot are down 29.5%, or 174 fewer victims year-to-date. Aggravated assaults are down 4.1, or 382 less victims. Robberies are down 4.6%. Burglaries are down 28.2%, or just over 2,000 fewer burglaries compared to this time last year. Residential burglaries are down 27.7 year-to-date. Non-residential burglaries are down 29.1 year-to-date. Motor vehicle thefts are down 22.8% year-to-date, representing 2,845 fewer thefts compared to this time last year. So across the board, a lot to be proud of the work that's being done out there, our people in conjunction with the community that we serve. Homicide comparisons nationwide. According to the National Homicide Comparison Report, covering January 1 through August 3rd of 2026, the LAPD continues to compare favorably with other major U.S. law enforcement agencies in homicide rates. While Los Angeles continues to see declines, several peer cities have experienced increases in homicides this year, including Chicago, Las Vegas, San Francisco, Phoenix, and San Diego. Los Angeles also maintains a relatively low homicide rate with 3.4 homicides per 100,000 population, comparing favorably with many large metropolitan jurisdictions. Compared with the same point in 2024, homicides in LA have declined by more than 28.4%, reflecting a continuing long-term reduction. Overall, the data indicate that Los Angeles remains among the stronger performing large cities nationally on homicide reduction. On personnel strength, and including our IOD and temporary restriction update, the department's current staffing level stands at 8,523 sworn personnel, 2,356 civilian professional staff, and 356 reserve officers. Of our sworn workforce, 401 employees are currently on injured on duty status, 25 are on long-term sick or FMLA leave, and 292 are working with duty restrictions, bringing the total to 718 sworn personnel, or approximately 8.4% of our workforce, who are not at full duty status. On the civilian side, 52 employees are on the injured on duty list, 45 are on long-term sick or FMLA leave, and 97 are working with duty restrictions, totaling 194 civilian employees, or about 8.1% of the civilian workforce, not at full duty status. This concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. I'll start with questions from my fellow commissioners. Commissioner Tabor.
Thank you, Chief. I have no questions about your report at this time. What I am interested, though, is in following up on, and it will come up when we talk about cannabis report. I've been brought up with conversations with some of the community operators that let me say this appropriately, that the state has not funded the effort to certify the quality and production within that, and that has an impact on the operators, particularly in South Los Angeles, but operators throughout the city. I'm wondering if we're, as a department, if we're spending resources that should be covered by state's responsibility in that effort.
Certainly, we'll take a look at that. We're certainly open to funding wherever we can get it to be able to help better do our job, particularly in light of the budgetary restrictions we're facing as a city. So that's something I'll ask our experts on where we are relative to grants and other funding opportunities that may be out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Scobin.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief. One, appreciate a few things. Appreciate you giving the comparison, but ask moving forward that it not be limited to homicide, but rather all crimes that the department reports on. Furthermore, obviously the reaction in the room to the incident that happened at the Federal Detention Center, there's a difference in opinion of what happened. All I can say is I'm looking forward to hearing public comment on it, and ultimately, whatever follow-up investigation after action report is taken to ultimately determine what happened. I read an article in the Times yesterday about low-frequency rumbler systems. The article shares some benefits of it and also shares some community concerns. Is this on? Do you have any comments on the article, the technology?
Now, from what we've looked at in other jurisdictions who have used it, where we have so many people driving with so many distractions in their life while they're driving, the ability to be able to have an alternative sound coupled with the vibration that comes off the street from the rumbler is helpful in getting attention so people can pull out of the way of a vehicle responding to an emergency call for service. So I see it as a positive, using technology to be able to help keep people safer.
Thank you. As this is a new technology for our department, and my understanding, the intention to roll this out at a pretty large scale, I think it'd be beneficial for us to have a presentation here at the commission so we can learn more about the technology, how it is and isn't used, and frankly, give the public an opportunity to also hear about it and share any concerns they might have with the technology.
Certainly, we'll schedule that.
My last comment is, look, I fully recognize the challenges that you face with the department being understaffed in many areas, but I have to admit that it's can be frustrating when we request information and the urgency to get back to us doesn't seem to be there. I won't get into all examples. There have been many, but I specifically want to give the example in March. We requested the department make a presentation on personnel complaints, namely those that are determined to be demonstrably false. We even outlined some of the elements we wanted to include in that presentation, and to date, we haven't seen that. I don't know where the logjam is in the department on getting these assignments, assigned to people and tracked, but I'd ask to hear back on what we could be done to get this information back to us in a more timely fashion.
We will certainly do the best we can to get it back, but as you started with, we're 1,500 people down from where we were at Sworn. Our civilian staff is down 700 from where we were in 2019. We are at a crisis mode, and so turning around report after report is something we certainly see as a priority, but it comes with the challenges of not having enough personnel to be able to do what we'd like to be able to do.
And I respect that and I understand that. I think communication can be better so that we at least understand where things are at, when we can expect them, so that we're all on the same page. That's it.
Thank you. Moving on to Commissioner Aubrey.
No questions, thank you.
Again, we've already warned this room about disruptions. Please, you will have an opportunity to speak at the public comment section. And so, Chief, thank you for the report. And I had a couple questions as well as some comments. And it's good to see that there's been a decrease in officer-involved shootings. And I think we need to continue to monitor this issue, even though there has been a decrease. I think we're trending in the right direction. But with any loss of life, we always want to make sure we're learning from that and ensuring that both the department and the officers have the best tools that can be used and training that can be used to try. Okay. Thank you for waiting to speak at public comment. Otherwise, I will have to clear the room if we cannot continue the meeting without disruptions. So, with regards to both the tools and the training, I did attend some of the Less Lethal Expo that was the department hosted. I trying to identify different technologies that are available and things like that. It would be helpful for us to understand kind of, what are things that the department is looking at to modernize the tools on the belt that can be used, and also, how frequently are officers being trained with those tools so that they can resort to them first instead of the firearm, which they receive a lot more training on, right? So we want to make sure it's in certain circumstances, especially when they're met with someone in a mental health crisis or someone who is not armed with a firearm, but armed with some other, whether it's an edged weapon, a bat, other things, that they have the resources and skills to actually deploy other less lethal uses of force.
Now, thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate the support for that. And that Less Lethal Expo was well done, showing us what's out there, what the new technology is, but also for context of the thousands and thousands of calls that come out regarding weapons every year that our people respond to. Much less than 1% end up resulting in the uses of force that you see here at the Commission. 99+% result in the situation being resolved in a way that does not involve any use of force.
Yes, and so again, I think we always want to continue that improvement and making sure we're arming the officers with the best tools and best training they can have to address things in a less lethal method. One thing that has been, in the news, and I won't go into it because it's an active case, but about an officer who was charged for having recorded other officers making racist and sexist comments. And I don't know the details of that. I know that's with the hands of the DA. But I want to make sure that there are protections in the department for whistleblowers and that they do so in a way that's not violation of the law, but that there are avenues to report concerns within the department and that there won't be retaliation against individuals who do so, including having the Inspector General's office being a location where they can raise their concerns as well. But I want to make sure that officers within the department know that if they have any concerns or want to raise issues, that there are mechanisms to do so.
Absolutely.
And I recently attended a neighborhood meeting, not as a commissioner, but just as a neighbor, and had a senior lead officer talking to the community about, how to stay safe and things like that. And I was just very impressed with the senior lead officer. And they had no idea who I was, but it was good to see how they interact with the community. And answering the questions and being available. That is community policing in action, and I don't think we hear or see enough of it. But I just wanted to call that out and recognize that is an ongoing thing. Okay, with that, I will now move to item number 2 on the agenda, report of the Inspector General.
Good morning, President Shields and commissioners, and welcome to Commissioner Aubrey. I look forward to working with you. I'm going to provide 2 report backs. First, on our public listening session, and another, an audit section update.
Can you speak up?
On July 30th, 2020. Can you hear me all right? Yes. Thank you. On July 30th, the Office of the Inspector General hosted a virtual public listening session on the LAPD's use and oversight of automatic license plate reader technology. The purpose of the session was to provide information about the OIG's review, promote transparency, and give members of the public an opportunity to share their views. The session is the first in a series of public outreach efforts concerning the department's use of ALPR technology and data-related practices. We thank the members of the public who participated and shared their perspectives. We also thank Commissioner Scobin for attending the session and supporting the OIG's public outreach efforts and the department's broader review of its technology, vendors, and data practices. On public participation, the listening session had 212 Zoom participants. 66 speakers provided oral comments. As of August 6th, 2026, the OIG received 444 written submissions by email, an additional submission containing 1,306 signatures, 66 oral comments during the listening session. The OIG has provided commissioners with a link to the full recording of the listening session, and the recording is also available to the public through the OIG's website. Written comments received by the OIG will likewise be made available on the office's website. The comments reflected a broad range of views. The OIG identified the following recurring themes to assist the board and the public in reviewing the record. Privacy and civil liberties. Some commenters raised concerns about the effect of ALPR technology on privacy and civil liberties, including the collection and retention of information about people who are not suspected of criminal activity. Data access and sharing. Commenters raised questions about who may access ALPR information and with whom that information may be shared. Some specifically raised concerns about access by federal agencies and the potential use of ALPR information for immigration enforcement. Data retention and security. Commenters expressed concerns about how long ALPR data is retained, how it is secured, and what safeguards govern its use and disclosure. Oversight and accountability. Some commenters called for stronger controls, auditing, reporting, and independent oversight of ALPR technology and the information it generates. Appropriate use of data. Commenters raised questions about the purpose for which ALPR information may be searched or used and the safeguards needed to prevent uses beyond the authorized use by policy. Vendors and contracting. Some commenters expressed concerns about private vendors and the city's relationship with ALPR technology providers. Some comments focused specifically on flock safety, while others raised broader concerns about the use of private vendors or private sector ALPR systems. Community partnerships and transparency.
Who has that recording?
Some commenters emphasize the importance of meaningful community involvement.
Can I ask one of the officers to look within the group because there are recordings that are being done? It's just a lot of feedback, and again, we're trying not to disrupt the meeting so we could actually hear what is happening. Thank you.
Some commenters emphasize the importance of meaningful community involvement, public information, and transparency in decisions concerning the department's use of technology. Public safety and investigative value. Other commenters described ALPR technology as a useful investigative tool and identified vehicle theft prevention and the recovery of stolen vehicles as important public safety benefits. These themes are not intended to represent a vote or determine the prevalence of any particular position. A single comment may address more than one theme, and commenters may hold views that do not fit neatly into one category. These themes are provided as a tool for navigating the public record. The OIG's role is to ensure that the board has a clear and accurate account of the issues raised by the public. For that reason, we are providing the board and the public with access to the underlying comments in addition to this report. The recording of the July 30th listening session is available on the OIG's website, and the written comments will be posted following this meeting. We encourage the board and members of the public to review the comments themselves. The Board of Police Commissioners and the city's policy-making body for the Los Angeles Police Department will consider the OIG's findings and recommendations together with the public input as it considers the future of ALPR technology in Los Angeles. The OIG will continue to support community outreach and independent oversight as the department undertakes its broader reassessment of ALPR vendors, technology, and data practices. Thank you to everyone who took the time to participate, whether by speaking at the listening session, submitting written comments, or otherwise engaging with this review. Your participation has helped create a fuller public record for the board's consideration. For our audit section update, on August 3rd, 2026, the OIG toured the Metropolitan Detention Center as part of its ongoing review of the Los Angeles Police Department's jail operations. The department operates 3 jail facilities citywide: Metropolitan Detention Center, 77th Street Regional Jail, and Valley Jail Section at the Van Nuys Station. The tour provided OIG staff with an opportunity to observe jail operations and facilities firsthand and to ask questions regarding the department's policies, procedures, and practices. The OIG thanks Captain Sylvia Sanchez and her team for their time, assistance, and responsiveness in facilitating the tour and answering OIG's questions. The OIG will continue its review of jail operations and will report its findings and any recommendations to the board as appropriate. This concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll turn it to my fellow commissioners first, and thank you for that report. Commissioner Scobin.
No, just to echo your sentiments, it was good to be a part of that call and to hear everybody. And as you mentioned, it's clear that there's segments of the community that feel strongly against the technology, and there's segments of the community that feel strongly for the technology. And I believe there's legitimate concerns on both sides. And as we chart our path forward on the topic, I think it's critical that we address those concerns. So, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Tabor.
Thank you for your oral report, and look forward to reviewing both the digital data and the follow-up conversations.
Can people stop yelling in the audience? And can all of my commissioners please stop yelling. And so just because I think our microphones are still a little fussy, so just speak as closely as you can to them. Thank you. This is not time for questions. I apologize. You can raise your hand.
So to continue, from your analysis of the population that did participate, were there areas in the city that did not have residents or folks participating that need to be further informed and invited to participate in future?
In our outreach efforts, we reached out to City Council and their offices so they could share with their constituents that we are conducting this session. We also reached out to neighborhood councils and members of the public broadly. We can definitely work to enhance that opportunity moving forward. And so we didn't ask folks to identify themselves by their council district or region. Some did decide to do that. So I would say that we are committed to hearing from as many people as we can as we continue to conduct outreach and public informational sessions.
And then the final question was, from that conversation and your presentation, were there any surprises, any new issues or concerns that were raised that we should be aware of?
I will share that we went over on time so that we could hear from everyone who wanted to speak. And to the extent individuals would like to further engage with our office on topic areas, we're going to be hosting additional opportunities such as town halls and public listening sessions as we roll out for future audits and as we share how our office operates. So I think it was a successful event in that we're able to report back and provide all of that background information to you directly so you can determine for yourself the results of that.
Thank you. Commissioner Aubrey. Thank you, Inspector General Barragan. And last week I was also able to visit the Office of Inspector General's office again and meet with your staff. And again, a really great group and focused on a lot of important issues, and I appreciate that. And I understand that you have a number of different openings because of, jobs that just have not been filled, and also needing some emergency relief so that you can fill those important positions. And I want to make sure that is a priority because, in addition to the work that you're, existing work and then planned work, there are other things that come up that we ask for you to review, like for example with things coming out with the after action report and the protests. I've asked you to look into and review the department's adjudication of all of the complaints involving members of the media involved in those protests. So this is additional stuff that was not planned out. And so I appreciate that you're able to do that. And I think, the community benefits when we have those additional eyes on things that are relevant in the moment. And so I want to make sure that your positions for, the police special investigator positions that are open, I think you have 7 openings, that we get as many of them as we can because you're a small but mighty group, and I'd like you to be fully staffed so that you're able to be responsive to the commission's requests and needs. And Chief, to the extent you have any pull with City Council as you're working on all of the issues with regards to staffing, again, this is an additional area that helps the entire department as well. So thank you. Okay, with that, we will move to item number 3 on the agenda, public comment period.
The first speaker, Jonathan Foster.
The Brown Act allows me to comment on the discussion. I must be able to comment for 2 minutes on the discussion. That's the Brown Act.
You're such a liar. So we're supposed to be able to get through the lies. Scope. It's not the equipment, Scope. It's the humans operating the equipment and what they're doing with the data. And so later, another comment. Later, I hope to comment on Keith Porter report. Can't wait till that comes out. Guzman today. You're going to go over a guy named Guzman. So what they should have done is told Guzman to get on the ground or get on your knees, and they didn't. They waited till he turned around, and then they started going up behind him. And the officer actually could have got shot as he turned over and has the knife out here. That first officer would have been dead if it was a gun. And I'll talk about your comments in just a second. July 28th, there was a no OIS. Again, thank you. Beautiful, beautiful work. California Assembly, Rick Zuber Chavez was in Santa Monica at the State of the City, said, "I've been proud to support the city's efforts, whether through legislation or support local law enforcement to fight organized retail crime. But no one ever says that they're ready to get all this money together to stop shooting people who are unarmed by having officers properly protected, which is not what's happening." As I talked about Shu Dang. And this is where with Shu Dang, he's his awesome officer, but what Shu Dang was doing isn't what was reflected in Yongyang, isn't what was reflected in Eric Rivera, isn't what was reflected in Jeffrey's shot at Sepulveda in Venice at the Shell gas station with a bike part in his hand, right? Where the department's actions don't parallel officer service, what the department strives to be, not like in the killing of Valentina Peralta. So, it's easy to condemn. I see the value of Dang, and it was a loss. So I try to say anything to prevent these losses. And one of the problems is the MOUs that go around already established, voted on policy, which is a real problem. So about protecting the officers from having to shoot, to having to stop having to do psych evaluations. One of the things, though, that's needed is they need to submit a blood test. Every officer that shoots, pulls a trigger, needs to submit a blood test. But it still shoots justifiably most of the time. but the officers need to submit a blood test. And we can't have any more absent commissioners. That's illegal.
Next, we have Laura FM.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, yes. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, so I'm here to speak about the crimes and abuses of Scientology. I wasn't able to get there in person, but the fact that we've had people come there in person that are born and raised in the cult, the abusive, manipulative, family-destroying, destructive organization hiding behind a fucking religious status is that you guys are the ones that are supporting this. You have not done anything. We have been there in person screaming and fucking telling you about our horrible crimes, the abuses of Scientology on a daily basis. We email you, we send you video footage of being harassed by Kendrick Moxon and fucking security guards who are indentured servants as Scientology. We've sent you videos, you've heard it. I've played the video of security guards holding somebody down for whatever reason they think that they have the right to physically assault and restrain because that's what they're used to. That is what Scientology security guards and your guys' support with James Richardson, that's what you're supporting. You're supporting normalcy of abuse in Scientology. You literally are allowing the security guards to think that they can get away with restraining somebody, that they can get away with these crimes. You have James Richardson on your clergy board. Get him off. He married and is married to somebody he married when she was 14 years old, 16 years old. She was fucking literally trying to blow to get out of Scientology. That's what they call it, a blow. He got her back when she was not even 15. He then coerced her to be in a relationship with him, and then a year later finally got his mom, who did not want it, to marry him. It's fucking disgusting. Jim, do something. Make sure that something is done. We've been asking you guys to do a psych evaluation for every single one of those SEER members, especially the security guards that think it's okay, a normal way to abuse because they're trained to do it. And you are fucking allowing it. I speak about this all the time, Jim. Not once have you actually done anything. Not once. Raja, you do something. You hear it in my voice. You've heard it for fucking years now. Nothing has been done. They've only slowed down and hiding their crimes more. Stop allowing this. Stop allowing them to have fake permits and allow the police to be authorizing their shutdown street. They didn't have that right. The police think that Scientology owns L. Ron Hubbard Way. They do not. So get that straight. The city does not get controlled by Scientology. Separate state.
The next speaker, please, Grace.
I want to talk about something this commission should already understand. Flock did not invent LAPD's obsession with stalking and tracking us. Flock is just the newest company helping LAPD do what it has been doing for years. Before LAPD signed with Flock, it was already spending millions of dollars on Palantir's automatic license plate reader infrastructure. By 2016, LAPD officers were already conducting 200 to 300 ALPR searches every single day. Officers could pull up a map of where a car had been and reconstruct people's movements. This was already a massive surveillance infrastructure before Flock ever entered the picture. LAPD's intent was always to cause harm. And here's the part that really tells you about what police think about guardrails. In 2014, an LASD sergeant warned officers to be more careful about how they justified ALPR searches because civil liberty groups might challenge them. Not because the surveillance was harmful, but because they were worried about drawing attention to their abuse. So please spare us the fantasy that another policy, another audit, or another vendor contract will somehow make this technology safe. The problem is not that LAPD hasn't found the right rules. The problem is that LAPD keeps finding new ways around them. The loophole is the system. And this is why shutting down Flock matters. We're watching the same surveillance apparatus get bigger faster, and more interconnected, while LAPD keeps telling us that this is simply about public safety. But ALPRs collect information on everyone who passes the camera and then gives police the ability to work backwards through that database to ask who was in an area, where a vehicle traveled, and what patterns can be reconstructed from someone's movements. That means the person being watched does not have to be a suspect. You just have to be visible. And we know whose communities are made most visible to the police. Poor communities, Black and brown communities, unhoused people, immigrants, sex workers, protesters, and anyone else already targeted by policing. And now, Mayor Bass admits what we have been always saying all along. Flock's data was being shared with immigration enforcement. So when you tell us Los Angeles is a sanctuary city while maintaining the same infrastructure that helps map our communities for ICE, what exactly are you asking us to believe? You asked for public input and the public overwhelmingly told you. Flock out of Los Angeles, ALPRs out of our communities, over 1,500 petition signatures, 80% of the public input speakers, and hundreds of written comments rejecting Flock and ALPRs. So now that you have our input, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to prove yourselves utterly useless and complicit as this commission has always done? Or will you finally listen to the people? We remember when 96% of 1,600 people came before this commission to say no to drones, yet you approved them anyways. We know this is your function. We don't need a better Flock. We don't need a better policy. We need to dismantle the surveillance infrastructure altogether. And Flock and ALPRs, and stop giving LAPD new ways to stalk us while calling it public safety. Shut it down.
Next, we have Steve Rogers. Steve Rogers, you're on.
Okay, thank you. The United States of America is a constitutional republic, one nation under God, and all lives matter. Let's talk about quality through continuous improvement. That's one of the core values. You might have it on the wall in that room. I suggest everybody look at it and read it. Because what I see, and I brought these issues up before, but I'm going to continue to bring them up, is that the oversight of the website, lapdonline.org, is not adequate. I refer you again to the events section. It is out of date. The last event mentioned was the Battle of the Badges from 2024. 2024. Now, I'm glad that President Shields was able to go to a neighborhood watch meeting, and there was a senior lead officer there providing good service and information. But why do we not know when those meetings occur? There are many activities that we don't know when they occur. The communication has to go in both directions, and you have a website that could be utilized for that purpose. You have neighborhood watch meetings. You have Coffee with a Cop. National Night Out. I did not hear the Police Commission mention National Night Out at all. It's not mentioned on the website either. That was a lost opportunity. Now, I do believe that some LAPD divisions did have events. They should all be quality events, and this is an opportunity for the department and the community to interact. And that's what we need, better communication. Obviously, the communication is not happening at this meeting because it gets disrupted, and it's at 9:30 on a Tuesday, where working people and students are not able to attend, either in person or virtually. These things need to be addressed. The chief said, and by the way, Chief and Inspector General, great reports. The chief said the LAPD is in crisis. Well, that's obvious. What are you doing to reverse that? The last class at the academy that graduated, 16 people. The goal is 60, not 16. And why? Because people want to join an organization or department that is great, not that's promoting mediocrity. And unfortunately, the department is in a tailspin, and it's quite obvious to everyone. So do what you can to improve the LAPD so that more people want to join. Another point, the COVID-19 so-called vaccine, is that still in effect? It shouldn't be. I hope everyone had a chance to listen to Fraud Fauci the Fifth and see what really happened. But besides that, do your jobs, everybody working together. Communicate back and forth. If you try calling LAPD now, you'll be lucky to talk to an officer, and a callback will be maybe a week or two. Is that reasonable? Ask yourselves these questions, and what are you doing, Police Commission, to affect change in a positive direction so that we have...
The next speaker is Quinn. Quinn.
Matthew, you recapped the last couple months regarding Flock and all ALPR companies, including your public listening session, as well as all written comment. First of all, it's 1,575 signatures. Seemingly someone running your community relations OIG email forgot to inform you of that, so it's clear that you're not actually reading the written comments that are coming through. The OIG listening session as well was one that clearly you weren't listening to because during someone's comment, you decided to, forget to mute yourself, and then you were having a conversation with someone else behind the Zoom. So when it's the OIG listening session, it's actually the public is giving input and no one's listening. Surprising. The OIG listening session, furthermore, was not in fact concentrated around data retention or concern with private vendors. It is telling that you didn't mention the fact that everyone was in fact less concerned with reforms and more concerned with the fact that LAPD is using the data to harm us, to kill us, to abduct us and arrest us. Jeff Scobin in mid-July admitted that it's LAPD that is the danger. He said that this information is dangerous in the wrong hands. So it's beyond irrelevant what the name of the private vendor is, Axon, Motorola, Vigilant Solutions. The name that's most dangerous is LAPD. And as long as LAPD has access to the data, we all know what the harm is. We told you for years at this point. We told you, and we'll tell you again today, and we'll tell you again and again and again, but Flock's ALPRs, Axon's ALPRs, Vigilant Solutions ALPRs have been used to target undocumented folks, abortion seekers, queer folks. And Flock's ALPRs hunt mothers who have had their children stolen, kids at playgrounds, swimming pools, community centers. LAPD creeps on, stalks, and watches sex workers on Flock cameras. You watch your ex-girlfriends, you watch your ex-wives, and as ICE abductions continue to rage throughout the city, you continue to draw the roadmap, but LAPD is the one drawing the roadmap. We don't care what private vendor, we don't care what company, we care that LAPD is the one handing that data to ICE and streamlining and automating the abduction of our community members. Grace already mentioned this, but Karen Bass recently released a statement and saying that she was all of a sudden concerned with the fact that Flock's data was being shared with federal immigration agencies. What a surprise, except it wasn't, because we told you in a letter early last year that LAPD was sharing information with federal immigration agencies. We wrote a letter, and then we came here, and I stood at this podium using my full 3 minutes to warn you about the fact that LAPD was sharing information with federal immigration agencies, and that was leading to the abduction of our community members. And you continue to ignore us. And then we continue to come here for the following year and a fucking half telling you that LAPD is sharing information with federal immigration agencies through ALPRs, through Flock, through Axon, through real-time crime centers, through fusion centers. We are telling you again and again, and you're refusing to face the facts. So stop having listening sessions if you're never gonna fucking listen. Instead, finally make a fucking change.
The next speaker, please. Hamed Khan.
Oh yeah, the cover-up begins. The cover-up begins. But before we go there, let's look at this panel as well. So Rasha is a former federal prosecutor. This new commissioner, Heather Aubrey, comes from the city attorney's office. So we got 2 prosecutors on there. Jeff Scobin's family is from Galpin Ford. His dad was a police commissioner as well. So this incestuous relationship is where we come to and witness that they're going to represent the best interest of the people. And you can then tell, you know, the after-action report that was released from June anti-ICE protest, and it's the same fucking song and dance. But the question is, where the fuck has the commission been? Watts riots happened. Rodney King uprisings happened. Rampart scandal happened. 2007 MacArthur Park shit happened. 2020 George Floyd uprisings happened. 2014 again, Trayvon Martin stuff happened. And now again, stuff is going on. There's an after-action report. There's an after-action report. There's an after-action report. But it's because the power that we have built that we are going to expose and disrupt and organize and build that power to shut this shit down. Now back to Flock, what we are talking about, Q and Grace have already talked about it. Your office confirmed receiving the emails, 1,575, but the cover-up begins. They even made a comment that people were reading from a script. when they were doing this, the Zoom call as well. Well, what the fuck is a ballot initiative? People sign on to a script. What is the petition? People sign on to a script. The same people who are saying that this is scripted, it's about the sentiment that people are expressing. It's about the anger that people are expressing. It's about the total rejection of these technologies and these practices that the people are expressing. That's where the power lies. So don't let them get away with this bullshit that people are reading and people are signing off, because they are making us look as if we have no brains, as if we are stupid, and all of these little kids, like, how dare you speak up to us like that? Well, fuck you is what I have to say to them. Because now we're going to have to watch them and keep them, because we're not going to let this cover up stop this shit. It's not about Flock. It's about Axon. It's about Motorola. It's about Vigilant Solutions. I remember when Motorola installed in 2007 these license plate readers at Jordan Downs, and the impact it had on young people in Jordan Downs, which is a housing project. So this is nothing new. This is not a moment in time. It's a continuation of that history of state violence and mass surveillance and the police state, right? So this is not going to stop. We have been getting copies. People have been informing us when they're even sending emails. Even today, people are sending emails to Matthew Barragan's office rejecting Flock. They're not talking about transparency. They're not talking about accountability. They're not talking about reporting. They're like, get the Flock out of our lives. Get the Flock out of our lives. But we're not stopping here, folks. Axon, Motorola, Real-Time Crime Center, social media surveillance, just as we shut down predictive policing and laser
The next speaker, Nick Stern. Nick Stern.
Good morning, my name is Nick Stern. I'm a British photojournalist based here in Los Angeles. I've spent years documenting protests here and around the world. I'm also one of many journalists who was injured in 2025. On June the 7th, 2025, I was covering the ICE protest in Paramount. A Los Angeles Sheriff's Department less lethal round tore into my leg hard enough to require emergency surgery and putting me out of action for 2 months. I wasn't blocking a street, I was doing my job, standing there with a camera so the public can see what law enforcement were doing. This was the Sheriff's Department, but the modus operandi is the same. I've read the federal ICE protest Alpha Action report. It's an insult. Pages on officer injuries, hostile actions, arrests, munitions, equipment costs. Every operational headache gets full accounting. Journalists only show up as logistical problems. Where we stand, how we get credentialed, that's it. Where's the accounting of journalists who were injured? Hit with munitions, gassed, detained, or ordered off a story while working it? How many complaints involving LAPD arrived from the press? How many were investigated? How many officers were identified? What did the investigations find out? Did anyone pull body cam footage? Did anyone call the journalists who got hurt before this report went to print? If the answer's no, and clearly it is, this isn't an after-action report, it's a PR document with a body count missing. This isn't just a journalist grumbling, it's federal court found substantial evidence backing journalists' First Amendment rights and claims against this department, found consistent LAPD practices of dispersing journalists and using unlawful force against us, and issued an injunction to protect us from your own officers. A judge has also said this raises serious constitutional problems. LAPD's own report doesn't even mention any of this. So, commissioners, how do you accept this report as complete when the press is nearly absent from it, and a federal court has already found serious constitutional violations in that exact conduct? I won't just complain, here's a fix. Put the commanders who were on the ground in a public, moderated room with the journalists who were on the ground. Let journalists explain what happens to us, then write the rules together. What to do when a dispersal order is called, how police identify and protect press and their rights, and what happens if those rules are broken. This is a real after-action process, not a report that erases it, but one built so this doesn't happen to the next journalist standing where I stood. Thank you.
The next speaker, Jesse. Jesse. Is Jesse? Okay, no Jesse. Okay, then Jason.
All right, so it's been 13 days and you still haven't released the name of the pig who murdered Alejandro Lopez Garcia. The pinkest of pigs, Jim McDonald, is in the news again for targeting another whistleblower in this department. When McDonald spoke about these revelations last year, he made it seem like it was a small contingent of the recruitment and employment division that was involved. And the head pig, Robin Patillo, was caught up in a similar but separate issue. Through Hockman's brief on this criminal case, we found that there were at least 18 pigs who participated in what's being now coined as locker room banter, who the LAPD and Hockman have now made into poor, sad victims. 18 of the 51 pigs in that division. McDonald said after the scandal, "We don't tolerate that type of behavior in the workplace, and appropriate action will be taken." Yet, the only pig facing termination for the scandal is the whistleblower. Jim won't name these other pigs in the scandal, but I will. It was pig Ramon Navarro, who's been with the LAPD for 21 years, who said that an LAPD candidate was rapeable because they were someone who could be taken advantage of. Hockman and the LAPD claimed the use of the phrase rapeable, was not in a sexual context. This is the same Navarro who was caught in other conversations that were recorded talking about sexual topics. How about your pig saying that Freddie Yee had molested his cousin when he was a child? Supposedly that joke, and one that Yee said he wasn't offended by, supposedly that was a joke, but who knows? The same Freddie Yee whose wife sang at the Assistant Chief Choice Community Celebration Dinner when he was selected as temporary chief. We learned that pig Shirley Burgos, who we were already familiar with, because she had made candidates about deporting a candidate, didn't want gay pigs to be part of her unit, and said that the best way to fight black people was to hit them in the liver, that she did an impression of Michael Clark Duncan's character in The Green Mile. Now, McDonald claims that all but one of the 18 pigs had disciplinary complaints sustained. How many of these sustained complaints were found to be out of statute, like what was the case with Robin Patillo? What were the disciplinary penalties? Have fun explaining to the public how you were employing someone who said that a potential recruit was rapeable. Now, 5A, this bogus after action report. How is it that there is no mention of the department's actual use of force during this time period? Calling it an internal improvement document and not providing any info on what you were criticized for the most is so on brand for the LAPD. No mention of how many less lethals were fired, how many officers were disciplined as a result, how many complaints were filed against your pigs, how many were adjudicated, what were the disciplinary penalties, how many civil claims have been filed against the department. All the questions that should have been answered in this document labeled the after action report, but what do I know? All this left to the wayside while LAPD talks about your mounted platoon who was targeted by mortar rounds. Mortar rounds, as if protesters have access to military grade weapons like y'all. 4K is a donation to take your cadets to Knott's Berry Farm. Speaking on preying on our youth, despite McDonald constantly reporting how understaffed his department is, I recently found out the LAPD at times staffs up to 10 pigs for their career days at LAUSD schools. Pigs on horseback, pigs on motorcycles, and even SWAT pigs. We know that you use animals and sparkly vehicles to blind children to your barbarism, but how do you explain SWAT being there? And I know you don't go into school to let them know how many children you've harassed, detained, arrested, beaten.
Thank you, sir. Next.
The next speaker, Audit LA.
We have anything to talk about with shooting Hammond at
Thank you and good morning. I passed out, or I asked them to pass out this. It's 6 different cases of victims of Scientology suing Scientology. I'm asking that you please read it carefully because I'm confused why these allegations are only in civil court and not police, cases and trials, because most of this happened in Los Angeles and it is LAPD territory. And allegations like an adult Sea Org recruiter allegedly groomed and sexually abused a 16-year-old under his authority. Scientology officials allegedly learned that he had what had occurred but did not report it to law enforcement. Jane Doe alleges she was threatened with placement in the Rehabilitation Project Force. That's their prison, internal prison. And it's very punishing. It's hard labor. She alleges she was pressured to marry the adult she identifies as her abuser. Scientology personnel allegedly facilitated travel to Nevada for the underage marriage. The pleading asserts negligence, coercion, concealment, and institutional responsibility for the resulting harm. Now, mind you, you have James Richardson. This is not James Richardson. It's someone else. But James Richardson also went and captured the young girl who left, and he married her underage, and he's on your clergy council. I hope not for long. All right, this second case, also LA. Scientology allegedly worked to prevent or discourage reports of Masterson's conduct to outside authorities. You know, Masterson's in prison for 30 years for raping. Plaintiffs allege they were declared suppressive persons. That means they're excommunicated after leaving or cooperating with law enforcement. It's a no-no. They're not allowed to go to law enforcement. They will be kicked out. Okay, the alleged campaign included surveillance, filming, phone and email interference, break-ins, threats, and property damage. The complaint alleges fake online advertisements and efforts to provoke strangers into contacting or harassing plaintiffs. Plaintiffs allege dangerous driving incidences, fires, damage to landscaping, and the killing or attempted killing of pets. 2 other dogs died. Okay, the conduct is alleged to have been coordinated under Scientology policies intended to silence and punish perceived enemies. Okay, Baxter. Now this one's Florida, but this stuff also happens here. Children were allegedly separated from parents, denied accredited education, and required to perform labor through the cadet work. Laura spoke today. She will attest that this all happened to her, and this happened here too. Plaintiffs allege that they were pressured into Sea Org before they could understand their legal rights or realistic alternatives. They described 16-hour workdays, dangerous assignments, humiliation, interrogation, and confinement. This is as children, underage. The complaint alleges physical, sexual, and emotional abuse in Scientology facilities and aboard the Freewinds, their boat. I could go on and on. Please separate yourself from Scientology and please read this thoroughly. Thank you.
The next speaker, please, Jamie. Jamie.
So this week on the agenda, there's another $12K donation being accepted for LAPD's human trafficking task forces. The elaborate sting operations conducted by these task forces waste catastrophic sums of taxpayer money as part of a deliberate state strategy to keep thousands of Angelenos unhoused and under-resourced, and they yield almost literally 0 arrests of human traffickers. Both the practice and intent of the city's so-called war on human trafficking is to target sex workers, consensual sex workers, and their clients, and the victims of trafficking themselves, such as Linda Becerra Moran. The Foothill Division officers who murdered Linda last year knew that they had been called to rescue a woman who was being held against her will. And yet, the pig who shot her perceived her only as a subhuman threat to his own safety. The critical incident video clearly shows him backing away in fear as he opens fire on this crying, anguished woman. By failing to provide even a semblance of oversight for countless prior instances of LAPD's institutional racism and transmisogyny, this commission is responsible for the ongoing harassment, brutality, and murder that sex workers face from the very same people who are supposed to keep them safe from that violence. LAPD exists to enforce and perpetuate sexual violence and gendered violence, and no carceral feminist posturing can camouflage that. You don't keep us safe, we keep us safe. Fuck the police, fuck this sham commission. I'll yield the rest of my time.
The next speaker, Megan.
Here we are at this fucking clown show again. Matthew, that report was so misleading and sanitized as to actually went down on that public listening session. You were making it seem like there was equal support and opposition to flock safety. It was 80-20. A small minority of people were in favor of it. All of them were from the fucking Pacific Palisades, worried about copper wires and strange people driving through their neighborhoods. Wonder what that's code for. The other 80% of people were from all over LA, and they were worried about the fact that the data is being used to track and hunt down people for imprisonment, torture, and deportation. So no matter how sweet of a little voice that you read it in, that's the actual truth of what went down. And none of you had any questions about the fact that the fucking mayor is apparently getting the message that we don't want flock safety because it's being used to hunt down people for immigration enforcement. None of you had any questions about that? Sad. LAPD brutally represses protesters, violently arrests journalists, draws condemnation from across the fucking country and a restraining order from a judge, and what do we get from you? A report. Another fucking report. Jeff, you're gonna save us all with your fucking reports. Most of us here are old enough to remember your reports after the brutal repression of the protests of 2020 and your empty promises to change then. And what do we have now? How has LAPD changed now? Well, now LAPD is using chemical weapons on protesters, which are banned under international law. Now we have a police chief who openly admits that he does not feel like he needs to follow the law when it comes to his precious federal goons. But when one of these precious pigs has a momentary clearing of conscience and comes forward to report brutally racist and homophobic language spoken openly in this building by police officers who have guns and qualified immunity, so it's extremely fucking important to know if they're racist enough to be talking about it publicly in a public fucking building. When one of those precious pigs comes forward to report that behavior, all of a sudden McDonald has a big ol' interest in the law, doesn't he? Claiming that a wide open public space is a private space and that it's illegal for them to be recorded in their publicly funded office, in their publicly funded uniforms. And Nathan Hochman, who can't be bothered to prosecute people who actually kill people, to prosecute cops who kill people, now his top priority is to help LAPD Hitler send a message to the rest of the LAPD that if you squeal, you will pay. And as Black Lives Matter has always said, that's because LAPD is organized crime. Rasha, you fucking coward, you said months ago that the way to go about this is for you to cooperate with the feds. That's how we stay out of
That's next speaker. Your time is up, ma'am. Your time is up. This is your first warning. Next speaker.
The next speaker is Desa Fasiska.
Can you please hand this to Chief McDonald? This is a man that we need to find who pulled a gun on my friends this weekend, and LAPD didn't give a shit about it, apparently. Apparently it's okay for CPB officers to just brandish guns on the street, grab a woman who's trying to get away from them, and pull her back by her shirt. She was terrified. And the cops were called. Hi, Jim, you're actually looking at us. Oh, Jimothy, look at you, an improvement. All right. I had a whole thing written, but I'm so pissed at all those lies that you played right in our face.
Ma'am, this is your ma'am.
Happened, Jim?
Can you pause the time, please? Ma'am, standing up. Can you please sit down and stay seated? You are disrupting the meeting, and this is not a time to pass out brochures, whatever you're passing out.
I'm not interrupting by doing that.
This is your first warning. Please sit down and stay seated. Thank you. Next.
I have a whole thing written here, but you played in our face. You came in here and you immediately lied about what happened this weekend. There's a bunch of people here. I would have abstained to maybe get our side of the story. Speaking of which, your report. I read that whole damn thing. Took me a long time. There wasn't much in it that seemed substantive, that can actually change things and push things forward, to me. And I also noticed a glaring omission in the people that you worked with to put this report together. You didn't talk to the community. Did you interview anybody? Did you talk to anybody? Did you talk to the press that you guys injured and hurt and arrested? Did you talk to the people that you guys injured, hurt and arrested? last year? No, you didn't. So this is not a fulsome report. How can anybody expect that to be a fulsome report if it's not including all of the stories that are actually happening on the ground? That's it. I really don't have that much to say other than you really need to start actually engaging with the community and giving us some respect. We come here all the time, every week, and to talk to you and be heard and see some results. And we never get them, ever. So Jim, what do? What is your job description? Is it just to go to the West Side and sell your flock cameras with Tracy Park? Is that your job description? Because it's seeming a lot like we're not protected. I expect next time, which you just put us in the crosshairs with this report, by the way, too. Now the federal government will really look at us at like domestic terrorists now. So thank you very much for that. You need to start remembering our humanity. You said that there was a lot of people, it was so out of control. It seems to me like you were underprepared for that protest. You called a dispersal order at 2 p.m. I remember because I was leaving to go home and big trucks, the big convoys were already coming to start some shit with the protesters. So please, I really think that you need to take a wider bird's eye view when you're making.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Skittles.
Some of y'all don't pay these cops enough to get their hair fixed. Like, look at that reclining hair over there, bro. And we got these pigs back there with the big ass fucking bellies eating pure fucking donuts, because that's what you guys are good for, using fucking taxpayer to pay these fools fucking donuts. Anyways, we have spoken. We've spoken in that fucking nobody listens fucking meeting. We don't want fucking flock. We don't need to be fucking surveilled. We demand an end to Flock and all ALPRs. Fuck Flock, fuck Axon. We know the data is shared without any public consent, shared with fucking ICE. Since the beginning of last year, ALPRs have been a direct avenue for legally gathering information. And I say illegally because it's an invasion of our fucking privacy. I shouldn't have to worry about being surveilled by an AI camera whenever I fucking drive anywhere. You guys are pieces of shit for that. We will resist your system of mass oppression via protesting, as that's our fucking human right. This fucking report, you're only nitpicking to release in that report, because we know you're complicit to violence and brutality the your minions cause to our community. We know you're complicit to that. We know you target journalists to shut down the truth because you're not truth givers. And I'm talking, Raisha. Look at me when I'm fucking talking to you, asshole. Fuck, tell the fucking truth. How much violence your pigs cause to our community? Tell the fucking truth. Not the property damage, not the little cuts that your fucking minions got caused here by fucking causing violence to our community. No one gives a fuck about your stupid minion injuries. We know you had undercover cops to make us look violent. We know that you do that. That's why we always keep an eye out and we put your faces on websites, even when you don't want it, even when you target collective organizing that want to make you accountable because you can't even make your own fucking pigs accountable. We know your route is only to maintain violence towards anyone who doesn't approve of your fucking fascism. You protect rapists. You protect extreme rapists with their immunity. So fuck you for that. Fuck you for that, man. We demand accountability to all these pigs that are saying someone's rapeable. That's fucking inhumane. Listen to us. I'm angry because I fucking hate for what you guys stand for. You guys have targeted me since I was a little fucking girl. You've told my mom. You've told my grandma. She's a piece of shit for not knowing English. Y te lo voy a decir en español porque son pedazos de mierda. Todo maldito de ustedes, man. Te lo voy a decir en español because there's no right fucking language in this country.
The next speaker, Tran San Ha.
Hello, Chip, and thank you everybody here. Love you, all of you. Is America has got like too much problem. So I'm here with the Jim McDonald, Mr. Jim McDonald. Thank you for a good boss, and love everybody. And very important, I'm here. Everybody, we want America is the best country on the world and protect all of us safety. I come here, we did it. Okay, we did it for America. So, and remember, very important. But if you with me, and good for everybody, good for all of us. I know some of you say they don't want to change it. Because it benefit for you. It's no good for America. So pray for me, and with Jim McDonald here, thank you for your help me, and we do better for America. We did very good job for America, the best country in the world. We did it. God bless America. God bless the whole world with you and with LAPD headquarters. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
And Madam President, we have reached the 45-minute allotted time. We have 21 cards.
We can call the next speaker, please.
The next speaker is Alice from CD 11.
Hello. On June 6th.
Sir in the back. Sorry. Sir in the back, you are now disrupting the meeting. Thank you.
Hello. On June 6th of last year, I was at City Hall speaking in opposition of ALPRs and RTCCs. My opposition to the unconstitutional, warrantless, and heavily flawed surveillance tech still stands. I participated in the OIG's public listening session, and overwhelmingly, the people of Los Angeles voiced opposition to FLOC and all ALPR contracts. So as the OIG is making its final decision, recommendation regarding FLOC, know that the public doesn't want it to be replaced with another ALPR partnership and all stalker surveillance with tech contracts. June 6th stands out, not just because of that city council meeting, but that was the day the federal government started their violent ICE raids in our city. The feds quickly escalated their occupation of LA by deploying the National Guard and the Marines. When the raids and the occupation began, I wasn't naive in thinking the LAPD or the Sheriff's Department would be helpful to the community, regardless of our city's PR title of being a sanctuary city. As someone who attended many of the protests, LAPD's purpose was and still is on full display, which is to protect and serve power. It's definitely not to protect the people of Los Angeles. I read through the after action report, and I have to say someone really overcooked the adjectives when it came to describing the protesters. Dangerous and violent. Painting mutual aid groups sharing resources is a bad thing. Bringing up protective masks and gear people you would use to cast them as villains. Law enforcement targeted journalists documenting the protests, and this report tries to put the blame on the journalists. It's pathetic. My husband and I were there on June 8th when the chemical weapons were deployed for the first time in however many years. And many other protests since. We see firsthand that LAPD consistently escalates. Yes, there are violent and dangerous people in the crowds, but they're in your department. A total waste of tax dollars. This report shows we're paying tens of millions of dollars of overtime for your violence workers to brutalize the community. The subsequent liability claims resulting from your department's escalation needs to come out of the LAPD's bloated budget and cannot come out of the city's general fund. I strongly oppose your action report's recommendations that additional intelligence and surveillance tech and coordination with the feds is needed. And since I have a little bit more time, regarding the 8/8 incident at the parking structure near MDC, there is clear video of what occurred if the commission wants to see the truth. 2 apparent federal employees dangerously and recklessly brandished their firearms. There was an unhinged federal employee, and when the LAPD arrived, they targeted the public instead of the guy with the gun. Stop brutalizing.
Two guns pointed at people.
Sir, that is your first warning. You are disrupting the meeting if you do not cease. Thank you. I am going to ask you to leave.
I'm gonna leave.
I'm going to ask you to leave. Thank you. And again, we are extending public comment, but if there continues to be disruption, we will have to clear the room. So let's have the next speaker, please.
The next speaker is Victoria Kirschenbaum.
I just want to really say I so support that last speaker. They were here at the podium. And I just wanted to say, to share my personal experience on June 8th that was not reflected in the report. I was there at that protest at City Hall. Thousands of us marched peacefully. And we marched down Temple, and we marched along Alameda, and we got to the Metropolitan Detention Center. I was right at the front. I get a couple people at the front said shame to a few folks of law enforcement in front of the building. But that was all. There was no other interchange that I saw. There was no order to disperse. But suddenly, pop, 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 the chemical weapons were coming at us. I have never experienced that in my life. We tried to turn back, but there were so many thousands of people coming in behind us. We were trying to get out, and pretty soon we couldn't move at all. I really was so afraid I would be crushed. But we were calm. And so finally, we did turn back, and we made it up Temple. I understand there were a handful of people who stayed behind, blocked the freeway, but thousands of us marched peacefully, and law enforcement fired chemicals on us unprovoked, and in my opinion, created a dangerous situation.
The next speaker, Blanca.
Okay, I've never done this. I've never done this. I've never been to one of these. Is this better? Okay, yes. I'm a transplant. I'm a nurse. I'm a Army veteran. I was there on Saturday night. And like I said, I've never been to one of these, but I see that in big letters, and that's kind of crazy. When an armed man was walking towards a large group of protesters, walking erratically, I was just a few feet away from him when I witnessed him grab a woman by the back of her shirt as she was walking away. I truly thought he was going to shoot her in the back. If you see videos, it's me screaming, no, no, no. The protesters stepped up. We captured a lot of video evidence clearly showing this gunman acting completely psycho and posing an immediate danger to everyone around him. We handed that evidence directly to officers, and what happened? The video evidence was completely disregarded. Why? Because the erratic gunman turned out to be a corrections officer. As I brought one of my videos to Officer Correa, he condescendingly asked me, "And what are you showing me?" I said, "The man with the gun." He said, "I see a federal agent." And he doubled down, ignoring clear video footage. To protect one of your own isn't public service. It is a cover-up. Instead of investigating a dangerous individual, the narrative was flipped on us, the very tax-paying residents risking their safety to document a crime and protect each other and the public were brushed aside, criminalized, and labeled as an angry mob. While I never had trust in any police, what I went through Saturday night confirmed it again. The media immediately painted an ugly picture of lies based on y'all's lies, and you just repeated those lies to our faces. I will mention that the reason there was a protest on Saturday was a response to videos from legal observers that witnessed children being brought in vans into MDC the 2 previous nights. In some of the comments from the videos posted, they said, "Did you call police?" That's laughable. That's laughable.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. You've had an opportunity. Next speaker, please.
The next speaker, Michelle Molina.
Sorry. I too am a frontliner. I'm a mainliner. I'm aftercare worker. I am a rapid responser. I take care of my community. And on Saturday I was there. And like my friend Jen would say in her videos, what the fuck? What the fuck happened? I had a whole script. I don't want to come up here and be fake. I didn't need to get hit with batons because I'm holding a line protecting my people, my frontliners, the people that are out there documenting and making sure that we hold them federal fucking pigs accountable. What are you guys doing? You and Mayor Bass sit here and say that you are for the people. We are the people. We are taking care of each other. We feed each other. We got pepper sprayed. I have fellow people here that helps me see after I still am burning. So is Blanca. You guys don't know what we go through. And for you to simply say that we are protesters, you are complicit. You are blinded by the war that we are fighting. We did not choose this fight. You gave it to us. You gave us this fight. Now we gotta protect ourselves, not only from ICE, not only from the federal pigs, but LAPD, we've known this since the Zoot Suit riots because I'm a brown indigenous woman and that is my fucking crime. That is my crime to want to document that those are children. That could have been my child. I'm a mother, I'm a fighter, I'm an activist. I'm here pleading with you guys. Do not kill us. We are not afraid of your guns, nor are from DHS. We will stand there every day until they are all free. Free Palestine, fuck Israel, and fuck the cops.
The next speaker, Katie LaFoon.
It's your duty as the only oversight board for LAPD to reject the June 2025 after action report about the ICE protests. By LAPD's own admission, nothing contained in that report can be taken as fact. Not the statistics, not the data, not the information. They have a disclaimer. They are admitting it's not real. What happened last year, what happened last June matters. The record matters. Demand the truth. Demand it. We need it. America needs it. What happened in LA matters in a historical context for the country, for the future, for everything that came after June, everything we're seeing across America, it matters. You say that the report gives context. But I don't see any context. I read it. The only context it gives is cover for why you guys used the force you did, presenting facts out of order. I was there. In June, the federal government sent masked men in armored vehicles, thousands of them, into our communities, taking over the city. And they brutalized community members, they terrified people, and you described them as demonstrators, anyone who was scared and asked questions. The language in this report, it has consequences that will ripple across the country. The language used equates anyone expressing their First Amendment rights as part of cell networks. You equate people who show up to protest like they're Al-Qaeda. Fuck off. You guys are the terrorist organization. We don't, everyone in this fucking administration, the White House, you guys talk like there's some network, some boogeyman, like all left anti-fascist group recruiting people. We don't need any of that. We never have. We have you. We have the government. I was a regular person not paying attention on June 8th. And then I showed up. I can vouch for everything people said. I was up front. And all we gotta do is watch the police. When you act with impunity, I watched. I never had any pretense about the police, but when I saw, you know you were untouchable. There's thousands of cameras. Sorry, that's an exaggeration. Hundreds of cameras. And you are breaking the law. You're violating constitutional rights. You are shooting and beating people who have not done anything. They're not causing violence, nothing. You beat the shit out of me. Hands up saying peaceful. We don't need anyone to recruit us when we have you. There is video.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. You've had an opportunity to speak. Next speaker. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
The next speaker, Dean Okren. Corey.
Hello, I'm a concerned citizen from CD11. Tracy Park is destroying the west side. What I want to say is, what I really want to talk about is LAPD is an extremely racist organization. If it's not illegal, to be a racist when you have power, there's an issue. We have a big issue. Sexist, racist organizations, and we have all these weird sayings on the wall. I was there when you, at city council, when you first got the job back, correct? Remember, you got fired and then you got rehired. You said that you had learned from your mistakes. What did you learn? How to be more fascist? I mean, we are in the streets trying to protect the people of LA. We don't need a racist organization to tell us that we're wrong. I mean, it's obvious you didn't fire or put those cops in jail, but you did the whistleblower. I can see my time.
The next speaker, Daniel.
Commissioners, I did not know that exposing racism within the LAPD can get you facing up to 13 years in prison. It's really amazing what officers can get away with, but God forbid they document misconduct by their colleagues. I understand that this prosecution was brought by the DA and you guys don't control that, but Angelenos and this commission should be deeply concerned about what this case says about accountability and the culture of LAPD. Officer Daniel Flores allegedly recorded fellow LAPD employees making vile, racist, sexist, and homophobic remarks while working in the division responsible for evaluating people who wanted to become officers. And now he is potentially facing years in prison for documenting those remarks. Whatever the legal merits of these charges may or may not be, the optics are absolutely terrible. What message does this send to the next LAPD officer who witnesses racism, corruption, or misconduct inside this department? Does that officer think I should expose this? Or does that officer think I better keep my mouth shut? So what kind of LAPD do we want? Even LAPD apologist Karen Bass said that these charges certainly send the wrong message, and she's worried that this will deter whistleblowers in the future. So again, commissioners appointed by the mayor, what kind of LAPD do we want? You obviously can't control the DA's decisions, but you can work to change the culture of the LAPD. Rasha asked about making it
Ma'am, in the
clear.
back, this is your first and final warning. Please do stop disrupting the meeting. Sorry, keep going, sir.
Rasha asked about making it clear that officers who are whistleblowers have protection, making it clear that retaliation will not be tolerated. It's a tough question, and frankly, I don't know how you do it when this chief is out here having joint press conferences with the DA about this case, and his message is clear, which is that speaking out against fellow LAPD officers' misconduct will be retaliated against and will even be prosecuted.
The next speaker, William Good.
You know, Rasha, you seem terribly concerned about whistleblowers. You know, over the last 2 years, we've had an issue with the LAPD not activating body-worn video. 3 years ago, a whistleblower sent you an email telling you about that problem, and you did nothing. That's what you think about whistleblowers. It's even worse than that, because I've been trying to CPRA to get my hands on that email. I just received an email from them this morning. They've delayed it another 2 months. You guys are hiding Rasha's email. Why don't you make sure, Rasha, that that email is released? Now, we have this new commissioner, Aubrey. I saw you during your confirmation hearing talking about how you'd go on ride-alongs with the Hollywood division, right? I'm sure that was with Sergeant Christian Mejia, right? Did Christian Mejia tell you that he got arrested being shit-faced drunk trying to break into a business not so long ago? Did he mention that? But he wasn't prosecuted. Why? Because we have prosecutorial discretion, especially when it comes to the LAPD. I've seen many officers violate the law. Richard Podkowski, it's a cop I warned about since 2020, pulled out a gun on somebody who talked to his girlfriend. Richard Ensley put people in the hospital after crashing in DUI. They didn't get charged. But who did get charged? The guy that Karen Bass's police chief had charged. To be clear, Hockman charged him, but it was at the behest of Jim McDonald. You're the one that asked for that charge. Now, again, like I said, we have prosecutorial discretion, right? It should be, when you move forward with these charges, it should be in furtherance of justice. Who is being benefited by prosecuting Flores? Are the average people in the community benefiting from this, from somebody whistleblowing on the cops? No, the only people benefiting are racist cops who say racist shit. And where are they doing it? They're doing it in the recruiting department. You're whining about not having enough cops. Well, look what they're doing in the fucking department. They're joking about rape, Jim. You know, I asked you to have the one cop prosecuted Gabriel Spadas for rape after he 5150 a woman and tried to make her have sex with a dog. Nobody does anything about that. But let's go after the whistleblower. And I know something about eavesdropping because you tried to have me, or not you, the last guy tried to have me charged with it. Same charge, same exact charge, 2020. And what was the end result of that? My lawyers from the ACLU told the city attorney that under Reynolds versus San Francisco, the judge in the Ninth Circuit ruled that there's no expectation of privacy in a police office when a cop was recorded on a phone call by another cop. So this cop, what you guys have done, you're literally breaking the law to prosecute him, and all you're trying to do is send a message, don't ever speak out against us. It's disgusting. And Karen Bass goes along with it. She might speak out now, but that's her chief right there. Get rid of all these people.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Next.
The next speaker, Sheila Bates.
And release that email, Rasha. Stop trying to.
Sir.
I'm leaving. You got no business being on the commission.
Thank you.
You are fucking disgusting.
Sir, you've already had an opportunity to speak.
When I was hanging up the posters,
You've had
I'm coming to yours.
You've had an opportunity to speak.
You guys want to come with me? Come to me.
Next speaker, please.
You'll be standing by. I'm sick of your shit. All you're talking about, you actually said that your job is to protect Karen.
Sir, you've had an opportunity to speak.
You are disgusting. Shame on you.
Having people stand outside in the heat is your pathetic attempt to prevent public participation. Make no mistake. Threatening the whole room, Rasha, for people having a normal response to the fuckery we are all exposed to here week after week is nonsense. Are you trying to show off for the new commissioner? The one who has no comments or no questions about anything? Heather, I can't even say welcome. Your decisions here are being watched. We have no faith in you. To go from council representing LAPD to the police commission is par for course around here. Just know that your decisions, your input, your questions, or lack thereof are not about policy, but about ethics, morality, and is about lives. History will remember your actions and inaction. The moment is now. Will you have blood on your hands like the rest of this commission? And make it clear, I'm not appealing to your morality. I know you fucking don't have any, which is why you're here and which is why you represented LAPD before. The fact that the Flock report did not include the breakdown of numbers is intentional. It was about a 4-to-1 ratio against the use of surveillance equipment. Let's make it clear, shut down Flock. The fact that it was not mentioned that Tracy Park, LAPD City Council shrew, was making comment. And it was, is this a bullying tactic on the behalf of Tracy Park to bully you all? Or were you all trying to bully City Council? Because we know it was one of the two or perhaps both. Let's also remember, Jeff, that the concerns are not the same. They are concerned about copper wires. We are concerned about cops who kill and abuse people. They are concerned about strangers in cars, and we are too. But those cars are black and white with red and blue lights. Rasha congratulating Pig McDonald for supposedly shooting less people, as if any number of people shot by the police is okay, is indicative of who you are as a human. You're a fucking failure. This is also counter to previous data shared that shootings have increased. So which is it? How are you manipulating the data to paint the picture that you want to paint? You tried to absolve yourself about the situation with the whistleblower when in fact, the whistleblower gave you all this information in 2025. And you want to sit here and point fingers at Jim McDonald. Interesting. McDonald, where is the report on the murder of Keith Porter that you were asked for weeks ago? Let's add to the list of your fuck-ups that you once again failed to hold accountable racist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic cops, but instead you want to hold the cop accountable who whistle blew on all of them. And we're not just blaming Nathan Hochman, we're blaming your fucking stupid ass self too. Let's make that clear. Or about the fact that you're putting this whistleblower out, stay quiet, stay on the line, telling them all to stay quiet, every cop to stay quiet, stay in line, or we will charge you and put your life at stake with the cops.
Thank you, ma'am. Your time is up. Thank you, ma'am. Your time is up. Next speaker, please. Ma'am, you've had an opportunity to speak. You are now disrupting the meeting. You're now disrupting. Next speaker, please.
The next speaker, Thandiwe Abdullah.
May none of you get any rest. May you be haunted by the...
All of
Ma'am,
y'all
you've
are
already had an
worthless.
opportunity to speak and you've already been warned.
You're cutting into my time. I don't care that she's talking, so I'm talking now. You know you're fucking worthless. Jim McDonald, you're talking about your 1,500 people down. You are the highest paid department in this fucking city. We see potholes potholes everywhere. Our trees aren't getting trimmed. Our youth development is in shambles. But I guarantee you'll see 5011 cop cars roaming around our communities. You'll see the fucking LAPD helicopters. But somehow you're oh so sad because you're understaffed. You don't have enough resources. Maybe because no one wants to be a fucking pig, bitch. Maybe that's why. Because it's embarrassing and it's annoying. I literally met a woman a couple weeks ago in Leimert Park, one of the last black enclaves of Los Angeles. She told me she had her whole day fucked up because your pigs pulled her over, harassed her, asked her where she lived. Mind you, these cops don't even live in our communities. So they're pulling people over, demanding to know where we live, and they don't even live in our communities, policing us, making us feel like we're criminals. Y'all harassed a young boy in Leimert Park for jaywalking, something that is decriminalized in California. Y'all pulled him aside and tried to detain him and arrest him without calling his mother. This is the type of shit we're dealing with from your over-bloated, fat-ass, budgeted LAPD pigs. When will you enforce the council ban on stop and frisk like traffic stops in our community, bitch? Our black community members continue to be repeatedly harassed, and it's disgusting. Now let's put all of that in the context of this whistleblower shit, right? Because the culture of dehumanization of black and brown people has been the standard of LAPD since long before I was born, and y'all know it. Jim McDonald, you're a slimy piece of shit. You should do the world a favor and remove yourself from it. You're the scum of the earth. Fuck you, fuck the fake union that protects you and your corral of pigs, and fuck your nasty ass husband, Nathan Hockman, and fuck everyone on this commission who is letting the pigs run wild, killing and harassing people in our community, fostering a breeding ground of racism within this department. You enjoy that shit. You don't work for these people, so I don't know why you're working their jobs for them for free. Rasha, don't act stupid. You received the whistleblower complaint in January of 2025. And yeah, what kind of coony Negro allows LAPD to run around dehumanizing black people, calling us monkeys? Rasha and Heather, what kind of pick-me-ass bitches let the pigs who are supposed to, protect and serve, allegedly, I don't know if they can read that, but they're calling women in our communities rapeable. Are you seriously okay with that? Fuck all of you. You still don't want to release the Keith Porter report still. You want to surveil and harass us, but you can't stand to have your racist, dirty laundry aired out. So which is it? You're hypocritical pieces of shit. You want to kill everyone and act like it doesn't matter? Great. Y'all should take a lesson from your own work and
The next speaker, Charmaine Elizabeth Johnson.
So there are people here with their genuine concerns, but there are also people that have been orchestrated here. The lady that you had leave first in the brown and black was to indicate the theft of my intellectual property and copywritten logos. I don't have to post my logos online or, continually post them for them to be valid. They're copywritten. I'm an artist. They're protected. Okay? What you're doing is you're negating free press by creating a tardy narrative that I've come to the meeting late. I came at 9:15. They told me it was delayed till 10. I left for 15 minutes, came back at 9:30, and then all of a sudden I come in, I'm delayed outside, and the meeting started. I wasn't late. I was here way before it started, and I don't appreciate you insulting my intelligence by doing things like this. I'm sitting down, all of a sudden I see a young boy come and sit next to me. My seating's changed. You're trying to entrap me. The FBI are murdering me. The police are aware of it. They're putting chemicals. They're adulterating my food in the stores for me to purchase, and they're putting chemicals in my consumables. So it's burning through my posterior, right? So it's cancerous toxins, and I'm being murdered. The police, if they are watching that and not doing anything, they're accountable for the same attempted murder because it's their job to negate that crime. Why am I still in this predicament and being murdered? Why am I still being murdered in a first world country? You know, for what? Why are you murdering my innovations? Like, why are you murdering me, you people? Like, is money that serious for you? My money? You're bribing the press, you know, to negate free press? Like, why are you murdering me? Because I'm black? I mean, what is this? It's disgusting. You have my sister over here with mocking my identity, mimicking me going in bank wearing my clothes, and you also indicated negating sending her back to where she's from in the UK, you know, because of this orchestrated circus that you've done today. Come on, have some integrity. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker, Michael Ackerman.
Good morning. Due process is one of our most basic rights, and due process violations are rampant at the LAPD and other departments. So I'm going to give you one example, not because it's especially bad, but because it happens in this room. When Commissioner Shields asks officers to expel members of the public without giving them a citation, letting them contest the expulsion in court, the officers are violating due process. Same when the room is cleared. A jury needs to be given the opportunity to determine if the room clearing is legitimate or is a criminal violation of open meeting laws. What officers should do is give apparent disruptors small but increasing fines, which would automatically include the court paperwork. Any officer should know that he can't just hustle people out of a public space without offering them recourse. My guess is that the deputy city attorneys approve these due process violations. Problem is, the deputy city attorneys are paid off corrupt idiots. Same for the police union lawyers. You need to seek out outside opposing legal opinions. But really, you should stop wasting time and ask the governor to do a military-level investigation of public misconduct, because people are getting killed.
Thank you. The next speaker, Angelina. Angelina, okay. O Stone.
Any voyeur with a computer can access these flock cameras. The company was formed by an billionaire engineer named Garrett Langley. And what is really interesting and very important about the company is that it is backed by almost $1 billion in venture capital investment. And that is very critical because what those venture capitalists invested in was a company that basically trades privacy for profits. And so they will record the information about the people. Flock sells our data, so then it collects all this information, and the more information it can collect and the more it can share, the more value that the product is. It's kind of wordy. The most recently, Flock was valued at almost $8 billion as a company. And so in order to increase their value of this company, they need to take more people's data, invade more people's privacy, and share it even more broadly. These police. And although they may say things like, we have certain methods in place and systems in place to prevent broader data sharing, to make sure it's not misused, that is a simple public relations response and a lie. Their venture capitalist investors who want to receive massive returns on their investment have forced Flock's hand and say, we need to put the pedal to the metal, violate privacy as much as possible, if doing that will increase our profits. And there is a direct correlation between more monitoring, more surveillance, and more data collection, more data sharing, and more profits. Flock is marketed as a tool to fight crimes, but the cameras collect data on millions of vehicles, regardless of whether the driver is suspected of a crime. And as President Trump's immigration enforcement crackdown has escalated, concerns are growing over whether the local data from these cameras could be aiding the deportation dragnet. It's not We know that they are aiding the deportation dragnet. Flock claims it doesn't work with ICE and that ICE does not have direct access to Flock's cameras. We know that's not true. More than 4,000 searches have been conducted on behalf or in partnership with ICE. This past May, an audit by the Dayton, Ohio Police Department, this is not LA, but this is in Dayton, Ohio, found its cameras were searched more than 7,000 times for immigration enforcement purposes. This is happening across the country. Shut down Flock and fuck LAPD.
The next speaker, Josette Cooper.
I want to say protect and serve. I haven't felt that for over a year. I mean that. I am a respectable member of the community, 56 years old, and I was pushed so hard on Saturday night. I am there protesting because they are kidnapping members of our community, and they're saying they're illegal when they're not. Some of them are children, and they're bringing them into that federal prison at night, and you know that. That's why we're there. And we were attacked by you guys. When that undercover, whatever he was, and pulled that gun out on us, we had no idea who he was. All we saw was a gun, and we are so fucking lucky that someone did not get shot that night. Do you understand that? We were doing nothing but doing what we have the right to do. Get up, stand up against the tyranny of you. You're destroying our communities. You're allowing this to happen. I don't understand it. And now you're attacking me because I'm protesting? Because they're taking children into a federal prison? They're tear gassing us? Throwing us down on the ground? That guy attacked us, and then you stood up for him. I have no trust in you whatsoever. None. That's what you've done to me. I have no trust in you. I don't believe that you're here to protect and serve me. Do you understand? You have a hand in this. You're allowing them to take the children, put them into these concentration camps. They're not getting adequate food or water or medical. Can you imagine if that was your child? Because we may get to that point where your child's out on the street and can't prove who he is. Could you imagine the fear, the terror, the childhood trauma that these kids are going to have to live with for the rest of their lives? America, we're doing that. I hope you're proud of yourself. You will have a hand in this. You will be held accountable for this. If anyone to your Lord, when he will turn you away, because he will say, if there is a motherfucking God, because I'm not so sure, but he will say, what you do to the least of me, you did to me. And I'll tell you what, you'd have him in there right now, because he was brown, not white. You wouldn't even know it was Jesus that was in there. I'm ashamed of you. Ashamed.
The next speaker, Davina Maggie.
Hello, my name is Davina. I am here to talk to you, Jim, because you don't answer emails, phone calls, or anything like that, because you're a piece of shit. Why do I keep getting harassed by your police officers late at night when I am walking through my neighborhood? Is it, I really want to know. I got something for you, too. I want to know, what's the fucking reason? Why is it every single time I walk anywhere near Sunset Boulevard, your motherfuckers are on my ass? Huh? I'm a fucking veteran, bro. I literally work 12 hours a fucking day. You piece of fucking garbage. The next one I can't. OIG, how the fuck are you not investigating what the fuck's going on in the Veterans Hospital? I spent 7 days there and I couldn't contact you or anybody in your fucking office. And I was getting abused, force sedated, I was held hostage, I wasn't allowed to talk to anybody, including my friends and my fucking family. And you did fucking nothing. And I've been trying to fucking talk to you for goddamn months. I am so heated, I didn't even know you were fucking here. I had a whole thing planned for your ass, but now that you're fucking here, why the fuck can't you investigate that shit? Why is there a man sitting in the Veterans Hospital with no goddamn teeth? You're a fucking garbage piece of shit. You should be fucking ashamed, just like his ass. Defending people pointing guns. Ain't not one of you got fucking trigger discipline. Not a fucking one of you. You're fucking don't. None of you fucking do. You're fucking all a joke. I cannot even extend to you how much I hate your asses. You rode around in my neighborhood. Why the fuck am I getting harassed? Huh? No, just absolutely nothing. We got nothing. You're all a fucking joke. Stop letting federal officers point guns at people. That's not okay. That's crazy, isn't it? Especially when their fucking fingers are on the trigger. Have a good one. Not eat shit and die.
The next speaker, Blanca Allen. Okay. Lisa L.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for your patience. Last year, after ICE began wreaking even more havoc on our city than usual, many of us took to the streets in protest. After witnessing firsthand the violence perpetrated against protesters that first day, I knew I needed to come back armed with my sock puppet, Karen, who will now speak to what she saw. Hello, thank you for having me. After watching hours of Fox News coverage, I decided to go downtown to give these wild rioting Antifas a talking to myself. I was shocked and horrified to find no riots upon my arrival. So I asked some police officers who were standing around which way to the riots. One pointed toward City Hall, while others giggled. Undoubtedly, the giggles were brought on by stress they were experiencing, knowing that at any point someone could come yell at them. Off to City Hall I went. I was immediately confronted by a young lady offering me, quote-unquote, free water. I'm sure it was either a scam, fentanyl, or worse, socialism. There were people with dogs. Yeah. Who knows what those dogs were trained for, but they were for sure Antifa. There were people dancing to music with words I couldn't understand, which is the most un-American thing I can think of. An indigenous man gave me a flower, which I immediately dropped because it was probably filled with knives. And worst of all, people stood in front of the detention center yelling very mean things at the folks with guns and tanks guarding it. I, for one, am glad that every night, whether they needed to or not, LAPD was declaring unlawful assembly, shooting directly at protesters with rubber bullets, flashbangs, and tear gas, because obviously they deserved it. After all, as they say, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can break my heart. Those people were breaking a lot of hearts. For that, they should be hanged. I think LAPD should have the entire city budget and shouldn't stop until every Angelino is behind bars. Aside from me, my husband, a few friends, and one of my sons. Thank you. Thank you. Also, please stop calling them pigs. Pigs are really cute and very intelligent. It's an insult to pigs. Thank you.
The next speaker, Mary Houlihan. Mary?
Oh, that was sarcasm? Satire.
Thank you, Karen. Hello, my name is Mary Houlihan. I am a comedian, so it is a pleasure to meet you, Jim McDonnell, as a fellow Irish American clown. I came here today to refute the reports that you just put out about the June 2025 protests. They are so factually inaccurate. If you really want to build trust with the community, you will retract the report because it is filled with lies. Several of my friends went to the protest on June 8th, 2025. Around noon, they were shot with tear gas. You guys are trying to make it sound like you were de-escalating a situation. You are not. You shot tear gas and bullets, non-lethal bullets, into a crowd with children and pets. People went to this protest thinking it would be a peaceful, no king style protest, and you shot at them. It's going to come out, you know that. Journalists are going to cover it. I would like to thank Nick Stern for coming out and for his service, because you guys shot him in the chest, a journalist. You know you're not allowed to shoot journalists. That's crazy. You shouldn't shoot anybody, but it is especially illegal for journalists who have protections. I was at MDC on Friday nights, and my friends were there on Saturday. You guys have seen the video. I know you have seen the video. There's a man acting like he's backing away from a robbery, aiming his gun at the camera person, at women. He pulls a woman by her shirt back and attempts to spray mace directly into her face at point blank range. What are you doing? You say that you want to improve relations, you say that you want to have accountability, but you're not taking any accountability. If people think that you are not accountable, if they think that politicians are bots, what do you expect is going to happen? It's going to get worse. You put a whistleblower away for 13 years. It's easy to tell in a job interview when someone is racist or homophobic or sexist by the language they use. You are not going to recruit cops if that's your recruiter.
The next speaker, Kayla Esmond.
Hello. I was there June 8th last year for the protest. It was not my first protest, and it was not my first time being tear gassed. I'm fine. Tear gas don't scare me none. You know, back in college, I used to strap myself into a gas mask so I could hit my bong more effectively. I'm fine with tear gas. It was my first time being tear gassed with children present. I've been pepper sprayed, I've been tear gassed, I've been hit. Nothing has hurt me and affected me the way seeing those children be tear gassed did. I'm strong, and that haunts me. This wasn't even the first time I'd marched from Mariachi Plaza to the detention center. We'd done this march before. We would march peacefully, we'd stand in front, we'd have speakers talk, despite the fact that that building deserves to be torn brick by brick to the ground by Angelenos. We have every right to do it, and yet we were peaceful. When we marched up that day to the detention center with children, I know you knew we had children with us because I could see the LAPD helicopters watching our approach. They had drones out. I know you could see us. We had children. On the march there, I watched a little girl with a feather in her hair dance. She felt joy. Even with everything going on, she felt there with her community and she felt joy. And on the way there, she danced. And then when we walked up, a man ran up to us. One of the protesters who was already there ran up to us as we're walking up and yelled out, "They're bringing out the tear gas. Be careful." As another protester screamed at the men holding those tear gas guns, "They have children. There are children here." The next thing I heard were the pops of the tear gas. And then everything comes to a pinpoint. It's weird, the things that stick with you in those moments. The little girl with the feather in her hair who danced with her community on the way to stand up and engage in her First Amendment right. Her right to stand and protest with her community. I saw her choking and gagging on my tax dollars. And there was no longer a feather in her hair because her father had scooped her up quickly to put her in her Moana-themed swim goggles because he was prepared for the state violence that might happen that day. On God. That moment haunts me. When we were walking back, there was no more dancing. There were many children there that day. I noticed the little girl with the feather in her hair because she was close to me, but there were many there.
And they didn't dance.
Thank you, ma'am.
Most of those children experienced violence.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker,
The next
please.
speaker, Kate. And this is the last speaker card, Madam President.
Last?
Yes.
All right, exciting. All right, I'll keep this quick. I was there with Kayla that day on June 8th. I actually screenshotted the Citizen app right after all of that happened. 1 hour ago, NBC Los Angeles described the gathered crowds as marching and waving flags. No major conflicts reported. 40 minutes ago, video shared by a Citizen user shows members of the National Guard with riot shields at the scene. 37 minutes ago, reporting from NBC LA indicates that tear gas was deployed to disperse the crowd. No reports of violence preceding the tear gas. Just from the LAPD, exactly. They were the ones instigating the violence. I remember that day, NBC did a puff piece about our group of protesters marching from Mariachi Square, about how we were peaceful protesters. That's the way it should be. This is how to protest, everyone. See how good they are? See how peaceful they are? See how wonderful they are? They didn't mention we got tear gassed anyway. So is it legal to protest? Is there a point to peacefully protesting if you're just gonna get tear gassed anyway? What message is that sending? We were being peaceful. There were the horrors of being handed water bottles and snacks from strangers. That was very terrifying for me. To be with my community in that way, to see that kindness from strangers, only to be met with tear gas. Thanks.
And we have no other cards.
Thank you. That concludes the public comment section, and we will take a short recess. Okay, the commission has returned from its break, and we'll move to item number 4 on the agenda, consent agenda items. And for the record, I will be recusing myself from participating, discussing, or voting on items 4A and 4B based on the city attorney's guidance pursuant to City Charter Section 222. I am recusing myself due to the appearance of a conflict because they relate to contracts with an entity that is a client of my law firm, though on matters unrelated to those items. So I will pull those items from the consent agenda. Would any of the commissioners like to pull any other items from the consent agenda? Commissioner Scobin?
No.
Commissioner Tabor? Okay, and Commissioner Aubrey? Okay, thank you. So then I will move that we approve items 4C through 4L and take the recommended board action. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you. And now I will leave the room for items 4A and 4B and hand it over to Commissioner Tabor. Thank you.
All right. Madam Secretary, we'll call item 4A.
Okay, we have item 4A and 4B.
And 4A and 4B. Yeah.
4A, Commander Natalie Cortez. We have the 11th Amendment and 12th Amendment to Contract C-129255, City of Los Angeles and the Los Angeles County Metropolitan Transportation Authority.
Good morning, Board, Chief of Police, and the Office of the Inspector General. Do you want a full presentation, sir, or is there any specific questions I may ask?
I think there are questions that Commissioner have. Commissioner Aubrey?
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. Thank you. On this item, my question relates to the what appears to be an inconsistency between the memo dated July 14, 2026, and the attached actual amendment number 11. Specifically, I'm referring to the language in the discussion which states that the 11th Amendment changes the term of the contract price for contract modification number 10, et cetera. Specifically, actually, the end of that paragraph, which is at the bottom of the first page, states the not to exceed contract price of $847,279,750.20 shall be increased by $1,026,378 for a revised not to exceed contract price of $848,306,128, excuse me. So that appears to be inconsistent with the first page of the actual amendment document, which states 1, Article 4, this is a no-cost modification. The not-to-exceed contract price of $847,280,655.08 remains unchanged.
Yes. This is a modification that has gone on quite some time since we started the contract in 2017. And that modification is more or less just to include the costs of this additional service. So the actual amount, and I could probably break it down because there is a whole lot of numbers into this presentation, but the overall contract price would come up to $848,306,128 at the maximum if that's the amount we were to spend overall for the service. What I can say for the contract, and I know that there's some addendas that contain old language and that may be confusing because it's what we've always sent up in part of the actual contract modification language, but all the services are reimbursable and it does not cost the department anything.
So there is no additional cost being added to contract Amendment 11?
Yes, there is an additional cost up to that $1,026,000. So the $847 million would be revised not to exceed the $848, and it's actually even going to be less than that because by the time this came through, it was less in cost. But versus the overall numbers, sometimes it's like an up to amount because we don't actually spend that amount because we are only reimbursed for the service we provided, and there's different dates on that. I know it's confusing. It took me a while too, dealing with the different contract language which we are provided by MTA and sometimes have to work into which our process is. But what I can say is that everything is reimbursable. The department does not have any in-kind nor any costs associated with this.
Thank you for the clarification. And so to further clarify, you're saying reimbursable up to the not to exceed amount of $848 million, et cetera, though
Yes.
the contract itself refers to $847 million.
Right, it's that additional for the additional service on the contract that we added on for the additional officers and supervisors. Correct.
My only additional comment then would be perhaps confirming with perhaps the reviewing city attorney to ensure that this is what is intended by the parties, including the department.
Yeah, we have an actual city attorney and as well as Mr. De La Guerra for advice, but the city attorney contracts is intimately involved and pretty much writes this type of language and reviews it after our negotiations with the LAC MTA.
Thank you.
Commissioners, Scobin, any questions? No questions. All right, well, a motion to approve items A4, excuse me, before I get it wrong here, 4A and 4B. Is there a second? Yeah, okay, then at this point,
Yes, I have a second.
oh, okay, so we do have a second. 4A and 4B. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Both motions for 4A and 4B pass.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, Sergeant at Arms, would you please bring in Commissioner Shields, please?
Madam President, the chair is yours.
Thank you. We will now move to item number 5 on the agenda. Item 5A, Department's report relative to the 2025 federal ICE protests after action report. And can you please introduce yourselves and get started? Thank you.
Good afternoon, President Shields, Vice President Tabor, Commissioner Scobin, and welcome Commissioner Aubrey, Chief McDonald, Inspector General Barragan, Executive Director Sibling, and our City Attorney Carlos De La Guerra, and everyone here in attendance. My name is Commander Mario Mota, and I am the Commanding Officer of Major Events Group. I'm here today with my partner, Lieutenant Joseph Franson, also from Major Events Group and the author of the 2025 Federal ICE Protest After Action Report. For your awareness and background, the Major Events Group was previously known as the Strategic Planning Group, and it was formed back on July 2nd, 2023. Later on February 6, 2025, under Chief McDonald, it was renamed to the Major Events Group to better align with our mission. Major Events Group is responsible for managing the 4 citywide incident management teams that were formed following the recommendations of the 3 after-action reports following the 2020 protests. So right now, I'm just making opening remarks, and then we'll go through the slides. The 4 incident management teams were officially established on January 25th, 2023, and are deployed with the Chief of Police approval to pre-plan and spontaneous events that require augmented resources and span for several operational periods. Since the inception of the incident management teams, we have handled 27 incidents that cover deployments ranging from single-day deployments, 1 week, to several months, similar, just like the Palisades fire, where we were deployed for 6 months. The incident management teams have handled golf tournaments to include the U.S. men's and women's golf tournaments, Academy Awards, LA marathons, several presidential visits, several Dodgers postseasons to include World Series games and victory parades. I mentioned the 6 months deployment at the Palisades fire, the 2025 federal ICE protest, which is before you today. Recently, the FIFA official fan fest at the LA Coliseum. That was a 4-day deployment. And we are currently planning for the 2027 Super Bowl that will be in Inglewood, with some portions taking place in the city of Los Angeles. And our other plans are taking place for the 2028 Olympic and Paralympic Games that will be coming up here in June of 2028. Major Events Group has also formed a fully dedicated investigative branch that deploys with our incident management teams to incidents to help manage the investigative aspects of the incident. The investigative incident management teams coordinate pre-booking screening centers, ensures media relation representatives are present, along with sound trucks, videographers to document the incident and assist with investigations and mass arrest scenarios. After each incident management team activation, Major Events Group will oversee the after-action reporting and implementation of recommendations stemming from the department's response to the incident. Typically, each incident management team is responsible for completing their own after-action report for the event that they handled, with Major Events Group being the final reviewer of those after-action reports. For this one, for the 2025 federal ICE protest, similar to the Palisades after-action, it was determined that an uninvolved supervisor would complete the after-action report. Although Lieutenant Franson is currently assigned to Major Events Group, he was not assigned to Major Events Group at the time of the protest. During the protest, Lieutenant Franson was a watch commander in Harbor Division. Although he did respond one day to the protest, he was not involved in any command decisions related to the deployment of resources or actions taken. His involvement was limited to one day at the time. The 2025 federal ICE protest started with a divisional and bureau level activation on June 6th through the 8th to address the demonstrations. What began as an unplanned demonstration escalated to thousands of people converging to the downtown area and federal facilities. Then on June 9th, with the approval of the Chief of Police, the incident management team was activated. With an IMT being assigned to the incident transitioned to a formalized and citywide command structure. This activation centralized the coordination, expanded an operational capacity, and enabled the sustained management of personnel, logistics, multi-location deployment, and demonstrations as demonstrations escalated. This after-action report is an internal document for the improvement of our department and to improve future responses to incidents and events. It is neutral. It is rooted for internal improvement and assessments. There is no advocacy or commentary, and no photographs or editorial framings were included. I will now turn it over to Lieutenant Franson, who completed this report, and he started working on this report maybe about a week after the demonstrations subsided. Great.
Thank you, Commander Mota. Commission, Chief, Inspector General. Before I begin, I'd like to thank, a few people that helped me in the formation of this report. Sergeant Christina Solis and Sergeant Sterling Bird were integral in assisting me, along with other MEG staff, in the formation of this report, so special thank you to them. Additionally, this presentation, or what remains of it, which I'll cover, will go over the basic structure of the report itself. So the slides that follow and my explanation will follow in sequence, the sequence of the after-action report itself. Going to this slide, or at least the after-action is structured starting with an overview and an executive summary, background, some overarching themes, a chronology, lessons learned, statistical context, and addenda. I will address those further as we move through this presentation. Speaking to the overview, methodology, and scope, experience-wise, I was the primary author and person most knowledgeable for our department's after-action report implementation plan. The department's response to 3 after-action reports relative to the 2020 Safe LA civil unrest within the city. The after-action report implementation plan tracked and responded to over 100 recommendations relative to the Los Angeles Police Department's performance during that time. That left me with this. What do we do as a department, or how do we take away something that's tangible and can be addressed? What strikes me first and foremost is the chronology of the incident and the knowledge that it can pass on to our personnel who will be responsive to the next civil unrest that occurs. And as far as the methodology, this was based in incident action plans, chronological logs, statistical summaries, structured post-interview events across our ranks. I did conduct from the hot wash interviews with personnel involved within the Los Angeles Police Department. Moving on. The executive summary. This particular section.
Excuse me,
sorry.
sir, could you mind speaking more in the mic? I think people are having a difficult time hearing. Thank you.
No problem. Is this better? Yes. Thank you. The executive summary section of the report tracks the key summaries for the chief of police as this occurs. The incident begins on June the 6th with localized demonstrations expanding to nearly 2 weeks of citywide unrest. On June 9th, the citywide incident management team was activated. Peak operations for us was Saturday, June the 14th, with a No King's Day parade, in which we had over 20,000 participants attend demonstrations, and over 3,000 personnel within the Los Angeles Police Force deployed in a single day. The annual resource cost was $17.4 million. The overall outcome or takeaway was that although the unrest was contained without protest, loss of life, and no breach of critical infrastructure. Moving into the next, there was 3 overarching themes in which we decided to author or provide some context to a bit before leading into the chronology and recommendations. What follows is the overarching theme sections for the after action are 3 things that stood out or otherwise were things that stood out during the unrest themselves. Those 3 things were crowd dynamics, the use of chemical agents, and the media. This section in particular, crowd dynamics, was particularly written to distinguish between regular concerned individuals who want to express their viewpoints and come out and to demonstrate lawfully under the First Amendment. What was observed throughout the review of this was that in addition to those people and outside of them are a group of dedicated agitators or hostile actors. Those hostile actors repeatedly and throughout the chronology of this incident used an intensity, speed, and scope and coordination of their efforts that was shocking. This created an incredible dynamic effect for us in the management of this incident. The second theme that is discussed again in the after action report is the use of chemical agents. This occurred 2 times. First on June the 8th, which was Sunday, and then the second time on June the 14th, which was a Saturday. Both followed sustained assaults where less lethal tools were insufficient to contain them. The first incident occurred on June the 8th after approximately 5 hours of continued escalation and hostile actions from hostile actors. The 2 days that preceded June the 8th saw day over day, hour over hour hostility escalation and culminated with the use of chemical agents on June the 8th. The second time, on June the 14th, the use of chemical agents occurred approximately 9 days into this operational period. After continued hostile actions, it saw hundreds of arrests, crimes including ADW, assault on a police officer, arson, and weapons that were used such as Molotov cocktails, fireworks, etc. The use of chemical agents here did not occur in a vacuum. The purpose of this section is to give some special sight to the use of chemical agents, as the department has not used chemical agents in a crowd control situation since at least the 1970s. So this was, in essence, a novel use of those agents to help this subside this situation. What is absent from this after action report, or even this section here, is ad hoc justification or to say that this was or wasn't when didn't conform to policy. It's just a chronology that says these are situations and circumstances which led to their use. They're highlighted here in this section, and they're repeated again in the chronology of the after action report in detail. The third and final overarching theme that we addressed to start was the media. Ultimately, subsequent to the start of this after action report and before the proceeding of this commission, there has been civil action taken against, injunction against the department in regards to this. We've modified some department policy and created training videos relative to the media. So for here, the purpose in the after action report to provide this site was just to provide context to the operational reality where line platoon officers, sergeants, and lieutenants in interacting with the media in the field found it difficult to distinguish who should or shouldn't be where in real time, in addition to their complicated line movements in dealing with crowd control situations. Moving into the chronological record, This is several pages in which goes day by day, sequenced to provide a chronology of what occurred. A couple key dates I'd like to highlight. On June the 8th, which was the first Sunday, is the first day in which a fair number of media images come, or that for which perhaps there's images in our heads for what this incident was. They generally occur on this day. It was the highest point of escalation and ultimately the date in which the department decided to activate a citywide incident management team to transition management of this incident. June the 10th was the implementation of curfew. In the days preceding the implementation of curfew, June's 7th and 8th and 9th, there was looting activity in the curfew zone or in downtown Los Angeles. After the implementation of the curfew, saw peak arrests and also a rapid cessation of looting activity. Finally, on June the 14th, the second Sunday, the nationwide protest drew the largest number of demonstrators. This also marked the last day of major demonstrations, with activity dropping sharply thereafter. The after action report then transitions into the lessons learned. Overall, these are lessons learned, things that happened that we want to pass on to future generations of LAPD people. Hopefully the next major civil unrest in Los Angeles occurs well after I'm retired, and I'm not here to pass on these lessons in person. It's the purpose of the after action to capture and chronicle those things so that people come after can take them and pass them on. Myself informing the lessons learned, I took inspiration, I suppose, from the 9/11 after action report, which was prepared independently, which is the helpful things or things that we saw that can help improve our informants. So as I go through these, it's important to note that these aren't necessarily points of failure. They're just lessons that we learned to reinforce future performance for people coming beyond. Particularly with the incident management transition, this particular lesson learned, it doesn't occur again in a vacuum. It's incredibly difficult in the eye of an event to try to determine when something should transition to a city level response. Again, as Commander Mota stated in his opening remarks, the general chronology of the general sequence of events for a spontaneous occurring critical incident type of event is that it will first be handled in a division. In this particular ICE after action federal protest, the instigating incident for us, as covered in the background, was a radio call in LAPD's Newton division. That was the genesis point. The incident begins there. It's handled at an area level. It escalates as the situation escalates. It generally then goes to a bureau level handle or something where a bureau level command is managing the incident. Then finally, the final stage of that is for it to be elevated to a citywide incident management. So this transition is natural and spontaneous incidents. It's something in a pre-planned sense. If we know the incident's coming, like the Super Bowl, the Olympics, that we can make those accommodations, those plans appropriate. But for here, that's the distinction. So what we found, or what is best, is for a quick transition to an incident management team. It overall helps our performance. Sorry about that. And the next slide, pardon me, I think, yes. Mutual aid and outside resources. We saw moving into a unified command structure is critical. There's another lesson learned about unified command in particular, but what I mean by that in particular with this incident, when the citywide incident management team took control, we moved to a unified command. Unified command with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, the California Highway Patrol, and the City of Los Angeles Fire Department. Later in the incident, approximately Thursday, the first Thursday, the Los Angeles County Fire Department also joins the incident command structure. I'll discuss that just a bit more later, but locally within the city, the Los Angeles Fire Department and the Department of Transportation are vital partners to any public safety mission. Although the Department of Transportation, the Los Angeles Department of Transportation, was put out a part of our unified command, they are critically important. Regionally, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department and the California Highway Patrol are immensely valuable partners when we need their assistance. We could not have performed this overall public safety mission without them. Through them, bringing in additional mutual aid and outside resources, better coordinated control to help facilitate the public safety mission. The next lesson learned was for staging. Staging here in this incident moved 4 to 5 times during the operational period. The frequent moves sustained logistics and strained logistics and delayed relief cycles. Personnel accountability and check-in consistency were impacted. Staging responsibilities occasionally blurred between command post functions. What specifically that means is, in a staging operation, the staging group works to rally the resources, provide them specific assignments, and deploy them where they're needed relative to their assignment. What that means in real terms practically is that the frontline personnel that are going to respond to these incidents are interacting primarily only with staging operation personnel, not command personnel, people making decisions at the command post. So it's incumbent upon, it happens to occur that they, in those instances, make requests to the staging personnel because they're the person that they see to try to manage the incident. So it's just an awareness point there. With a recommendation here of pre-identifying multiple staging sites, anticipating relocations, and making clear staging command post divisions, particularly even as we plan for the 2028 Olympic Games. Staging sites are incredibly important to the effective execution of our public safety mission. Our ability to rally resources, put them in an area to respond, and get them to that role, to get them to where they need to be quickly, is crucial for our operations. Oops. Operations in command. Excuse me. This again highlights the benefits of a unified command in the citywide IMT structure. Significantly improved our coordination, planning, logistics, and documentation. The early challenges were command post relocations occurring with Operation Central Bureau, communication gaps. Even we did have a command post established for the event with the citywide incident management team. Our radio reliability was not there. And then early in the incident with Operation Central Bureau, and a bit as it escalates through to the citywide incident management team, the designation of mobile field force roles and what they're doing, what their assignments are, created some confusion as to their assignments. Additionally, having limited radio frequencies available created issues with daily changing radio frequencies or trying to maintain operations on a consistent, reliable radio network. The next lesson learned was mass arrests. The takeaway here is an awareness piece. In order to properly facilitate mass arrests, there must be strong support contingent identified and assigned as quickly as possible. When it becomes apparent that mass arrests will occur, it's critical that we get this stuff in place before. As the cadence of events and later illustrated in the after-action report, arrests were not consistent through the days. There were some on some days, high on other days. But ultimately, if there's going to be curfews and we're going to moving to make those, we need to have resources in place. Not having those in place strains operations. The next slide, with the use of chemical agents, gaps in equipment, personal protective equipment for officers were identified to include masks not being properly fitting or having the correct filters. Additional things used against our personnel to include rocks, bottles, fireworks, cinder blocks, Molotov cocktails, interfered with our personnel and provided additional safety risks and hazard. The recommendation is to ensure citywide department access to protective gear, including masks. Also, particularly through the hot wash, the use of drones or drone as first responders to help monitor crowd activities and facilitate movements of mobile field forces were strongly recommended. Additionally, under tactics and equipment, one point for training to reinforce the role of sergeant lieutenant supervisory standards in mobile field force training. In this particular after action, it was identified that particularly the rank at lieutenant and sergeant had difficulty at times utilizing the mobile field forces and moving them appropriately to facilitate the overall public safety mission. The next lesson learned for use of force reporting. There were two things that occurred. One was that the volume of the quantity use of force that occurred enters a use of force into the regular administrative review process. It's important to note that because a use of force occurs in a crowd control situation, it's not separate and aside from the same policies, procedures, and rules that govern our policy, our reporting on use of force. That being said, with a high volume of use of force occurring in the multiple operational days as this proceeds, it may be worth revisiting, looking at something to facilitate that. We don't want to diminish the quality of the investigations, but it becomes an operational reality when we're working 16, 17-hour days to have that supervisor then have to go back to their division and begin administrative review only to go back the next day for another 16, 17-hour day. And the second thing that occurred is in this, although this is a report of the Los Angeles Police Department's actions relative to these events, it does not, we do not have an operational picture precisely of outside entities and what they did, what types of force they used. That we would had several people that reported or came to us or came to personnel reporting to the Los Angeles Police Department that they had been struck with projectiles, etc., but they were unsure as to whether it was a Los Angeles Police Department personnel or an outside entity. Ultimately, throughout the cadence of days, what was relied upon was to take a injury report that to document that a use of force occurred and then funnel that for further review and investigation through the system to see if that was a Los Angeles Police Department officer or an outside entity so that it could be properly reviewed and adjudicated. The recommendation would be to look at making that a practice if applicable. The last lesson that we took away was a strong point as a strength for intelligence. It's crucial. The intelligence received from our shadow teams and elsewhere helped inform our planning. It demonstrated hostile actor sophistication with increased protective gear, shields, chemical agent countermeasures, improvised weaponry, drone monitoring of police lines, probable police radio monitoring, rapid social media driven mobilization. These things were all help inform through our intelligence, and the recommendation to be just maintain that consistently in these types of events moving forward. Pardon me. Moving into personnel and cost overview. The section of this report provides detail into the types of shifts used, quantity of dollars, etc. It's important to note that these amounts begin, starting on June 6th for the deployment only relative to the federal ICE activities. The city itself was on a modified tactical alert that incurred other costs and overtime. That's not accounted for here. This is just what was assigned to the incident itself. Of note, there were 17,000 personnel work shifts. That means 17,000 different people, not different people, but different assignments that were filled. Our peak deployment was 3,127 on June the 14th. That date also marked a full department mobilization. And the average after the formation of the incident management teams was somewhere around 1,500 personnel deployed per day to help deal with this. The final statistical summary is arrest activity. There were 435 total arrests from June the 7th to June the 16th. Peak arrest day was June the 10th, which was also the first day of the curfew, the mayor's curfew. the arrests showed a broadly Los Angeles city or county residents of a mixed range of personnel, of people involved. The report itself closes out with the addenda, which are a declaration of a local emergency from the mayor's office, ordering setting curfew during existing or local emergencies, and the rescinding of the mayor's curfew orders. With that, we're happy to take your questions.
Thank you for that report. I'll start with questions from my fellow commissioners. Commissioner Scobin.
Yeah, I'll ask on and pass it around and then come back. You thank you for the presentation, and you clearly stated that that it's an after action report, but it's also an internal document. I think if you heard today in public comment, there's a lot of members of the public who were there who took the time to read the report. That didn't feel what they saw or experienced was reflected in the report. And one of the things that I kind of have a question on is I thought there was a good suggestion by a member of the media, who recommended there be some interactive process, with members of the media, to kind of hear from them and really to think tank how we improve moving forward, because at the end of the day, that's what it's about. It's continuous improvement. And so I'm curious to get some insight or perspective as to maybe why one, seeking outside input or feedback isn't part of the process in the after action report, and what's the feeling moving forward on incorporating that where it is appropriate.
Thank you, Commissioner. To the first part of that question, as far as why outside feedback was not incorporated, it's not to be obtuse, and I want to be clear there. It's that, to me, the federal ICE after action protests is a 1,000-pound glass ball dropped from a 100-foot building that shatters into 1 million pieces. Each of those pieces is an event or a sequence or a story, and they're all valid, and I don't dispute that. The task to us, or the task in the preparation of this, was to assemble those pieces for which we could help guarantee we can have a good workable product moving forward to improve our performance. With previous after actions, like I stated, my experience with in response to the after action reports for the Safe LA, there were 3. One of those after action reports was authored by the department, and 2 were commissioned from outside. We feel that if that is a desire, that's probably the best avenue. I don't feel it would be appropriate here for me to say back to the community or the feedback what their feedback is. I wouldn't want to misstate it or represent it, or I feel confident I could state or represent the department's experiences and viewpoints more accurately.
And then just to follow up on that, Commissioner, although not included in the after action, the department did take certain actions as a result of feedback that was acquired from to the department through, like in this case, let's say the injunction, where the department was made aware of the injunction, and then we took steps to address those concerns, which was the case here. We were made aware of the injunction on September 10th, 2025. By September 12th, there was an Office of the Chief of Police notice that was issued to all department personnel that addressed those concerns. There was also, and Lieutenant Franson mentioned it, there was a LMS video created by Media Relations to address certain concerns that were brought up regarding our encounters with the credentialed media and media encounters at these protests. Notices were posted on our learning management system that every officer, prior to deploying to a protest or demonstration, had to go on to the online training system and acknowledge the notice. Most recently, on September 6th or 8th, this commission received a presentation from one of our sergeants from Metropolitan Division on crowd control, crowd management, along with Media Relations, Captain Mike Bland, and our Public Information Director, where we addressed crowd control tactics, what we do to train, and as well as contact with the media at these demonstrations. So we took 4 to 5 drastic steps to improve those relationships with our media partners and ensure that moving forward, at demonstrations that we comply with sections similar to like 409.7 PC and 13652 PC. So we took those positive steps in the right direction to address those concerns.
Do you want to pass the baton? Yeah. Okay, no problem. Commissioner Tabor.
Thank you very much. I want to begin with a comment that I noticed about a number of the presentations we receive where you all are reading from a deck created to identify the document, but we're reading from the actual report that is not necessarily aligned with where you're walking us through. Perhaps if there's a way using this technology so that we could see your deck on our screen or facing us rather than try to read it across the room, it'd be more helpful. Just a suggestion, a question, or a recommendation, however it should be perceived. One of the things that I found helpful as I read through the report was you in your, I think it begins on page 35. Let me just get here, where you've begun to outline lessons learned and recommendations based on categories. I found that very helpful and really helped me to see questions and describe, now as you described it, lessons learned. And I think from the going forward point that helps us understand where you're seeing the process, helps us understand what you're seeing in the process, and then how you're analyzing and making recommendations to prevent problems, but to also take advantage of opportunities. So I've got just a broad general question that sort of gets to some of these, but I'll start with this question. That as we look towards the future, and we're envisioning preparing now for the Olympics and the integration that will need with other departments in other cities and in the region, have we begun to have the level of training as recommended here in your report at the sergeant, lieutenant level across departments, or are we still only talking and seeing that as something we would do internally here in LAPD?
Thank you for that question, Commissioner. We are doing our internal training. That's been ongoing. And again, I'll refer back to that presentation back in June. But there is also a training plan for the Olympics and major events that is being headed by our training bureau, Chief Embrick and his staff. They were provided with certain categories of training that needs to occur for major events, specifically like the Olympics. And then as well as our Metropolitan Division and other specialized units, they do engage in different agency training with the Sheriff's Department and other agencies that will be part of the Olympics, working together, collaborating. So they do engage. Most recently, I believe it was 2 or 3 months ago, with Mobile Field Force training with the Sheriff's Department as well, to address those concerns and the interoperability of the different departments.
Okay. And I started there because the broad notion of lessons learned as we projected forward. But let me go back now. The report you provided us, as you list the recommendations in the report, where are we internally now in looking and adopting or providing alternative recommendations to what you've listed here? Is it generally, and maybe Chief, this is a question for you as well, but as I read through the recommendations, I thought they were well thought out. There obviously could be some greater detail included in them, but are we now, have we accepted these recommendations and moving them to policy, or are we still discussing the recommendations as to what should happen?
Yeah, most of them are not a policy issue. They're tactics, procedures, systems to have in place to be able to deal with what we anticipate coming down the road. We will be doing, and we have a plan for doing the internal training as we move forward toward the Olympics. The challenge we face is that we have 1/3 of the personnel we'll need to be able to police the Olympic Games. That means 2/3 will come from outside the department throughout the state, and possibly, if legislation goes through, from around the country. So to be able to get people in and up to speed on that, we're going to have to be able to have a out-of-the-box training presentation for those that are going to be coming in to assist us in that, so that we get across at least the very basics and relevant to the roles that they will be playing throughout the duration of the games of the Olympics and Paralympics. And so Chief Embrick has taken on that, and he's in charge of training and can probably speak more to that. But the spirit of what we're doing is to be as prepared as we can with the ability we have to do that with our personnel, certainly, as well as then with surrounding agencies throughout LA County and the 5-county area. Beyond that will be more challenging, certainly, to be able to have anything that they're present at.
Thank you.
Hey, good afternoon, Commissioners. So in regard to your question as far as specific training for mobile field force operations as well as crowd control, crowd management. So if you remember back to 2020, as a result of that after action review, the department caused the department to take a second look at our mobile field force training. And we initiated training, and as well as not just training for training updates, but we also required all department personnel who were between the rank of police officer, detective, sergeant, and lieutenants to attend that update training every 2 years. That 8-hour course is similar to the one that recruits receive in the academy. And so far, that course, which is run under Training Bureau with personnel loaned from Metropolitan Division, we've trained over 10,248 individuals. However, if you look at because some of the officers have attended several times because now we're into the second or third recertification cycle, we've trained 6,696 unique officers. So we're continuing to do that training. And one of the things we were talking about in looking at that training plan was that this certification is good for 2 years. So everybody that we train as of now is going to be within that trained window for the Summer Olympics, if we're looking especially at that. You mentioned that you were interested in supervisor and manager training. That is an aspect included in that training, and we specifically provide training at supervisor school and watch commander school, which addresses this in addition to the 8-hour update course. Supervisors, not only detective supervisors, but patrol supervisors receive specific training on how to be a squad leader, and we train our lieutenants what our expectations of a mobile field force leader is. So in addition to the training that's received by officers through lieutenants, we also have a department requirement for command officers, so captains, commanders, deputy chiefs, and that is an annual requirement. So far, since the training's been initiated, we've trained 211 personnel. You know, we only have 100 command officers, so that means most of us on our second or third, second go around. So as far as recommendations, so we pay attention to these First Amendment activity. We pay attention to violent protests and receive immediate feedback from the field. So things that are training enhancements that we can provide to this training are implemented immediately by the trainers. And we try to keep the course contemporary as possible. In addition to training, we also constantly are scanning for new technologies which we could include in our deployment. And there is a very structured process in which we select and we consider items. We don't just look at things haphazard, but we have an entire committee that considers everything that we're going to look at to try to improve our response to these type of incidents.
Thank you. What I also pulled from the report, and there was a question that came to my mind, was when we began, and I first have to laugh because when you say I might remember back to 2020, in 2020 I had no idea what the LAPD was doing. Thank you for allowing me to see that pass in a quick sense. In this, as I go back to the report that we have, and I was going to try to keep it focused to page, just one more question after this actually. I'm looking now at page 39 where it talks about, what section am I in? Staging. Given the distribution of resources within the community that community activists utilize to organize protests to ICE actions last year, that as this report explains, there were multiple examples of where initial staging was proposed, and then I'm going to call it fallback, please correct the language if I get this wrong, but then alternative staging areas were utilized. And in that process, did we discover problems in moving, or were we able to comfortably do that in a way that didn't become just didn't create new problems for officers moving within bureaus within the command structure, such that we had to stop and refocus during that process? And I'm trying not to describe because I want you to sort of explain it that way.
Thank you, Commissioner. The issue with the staging was quite the opposite of what you were hoping to hear, probably. The movements, the shifting of locations, moving of equipment, and resetting up was a tremendous encumbrance to the operation, both in trying to find new locations, what occurred here, the overall context for the underlying incidents for which this occurred was federal immigration raids, which were remarkably unpopular. That being said, our ability to utilize staging, as we don't have pre-designated staging locations, is at the goodwill of people. It's not their burden to bear criticism for us trying to perform our actions. And so as we moved through that, some people changed their mind, and we had to accommodate and change on the fly. And that did, in fact, create a tremendous encumbrance operationally, logistically, in this operation.
And then my final question for you, I don't know if we're doing rounds or not, but final question for thought is, as folks in the audience talked today, it is a civic activity to participate in your constitutional right to protest. And in many instances, and I think of my own youth, I was brought to demonstrations or to protests as a child and participated, marched with family members and others. What can we do to, if anything, to help protect the young people or the individuals who are traveling with young people through this process that we didn't do or that we can do better?
So I can talk to like our command level officer training, and one of the things that we emphasize is the constitutional right for people to be heard and to peacefully protest. So that's what
let me be clear. I am speaking of the peaceful protest, not in those instances where it's been elevated to rocks and bottles and everything being thrown at officers, but in the peaceful protests and our response to differentiate. So.
Yeah, and I will submit to you that throughout the city of Los Angeles, we have peaceful gatherings that occur every day. And you don't hear about them because they don't become elevated. There's not criminal activity, and we respect that. So as we were going through, for example, Inside Safe, my division at Pacific had at least 3 different gatherings every single day. We only hear about the protests in which criminal activity becomes widespread, they become violent, and that's when they become a concern to the community as well as the department. So we emphasize that training as well as the media's right to report on all of these gatherings, to include the ones that become violent, and emphasize that with our command officers. We have a training event coming up in September, which we are going to openly invite you guys to attend, specifically for our command officers, and we will do a training update on the media. We will also do our training update for the command officers to meet that 1-year refresher requirement.
And to follow up on that, commissioners, just like the chief said, so coming up, we have what we call our leadership enhancement and development session. So up until this point, up until this presentation, this after action report has not been released internally within the department to our officers, to our rank and file. Only a select few, the chief of police and our chain of command is aware of this report. And then obviously it was posted on Friday on your website there. But moving forward, this after action is going to be socialized internally within the department. It's going to be socialized with our command staff and senior staff at our, what we call our lead symposium, as well as coming up our incident management teams, the 4 incident management teams and our investigative incident management team. We will have a symposium coming up in the next quarter where this report will be discussed at that symposium, and is one of the requirements when we develop the incident management teams to discuss these reports and recommendations within that.
All right. Thank you very much for answering questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Aubrey.
Thank you. And thank you all for the report and presentation. My first question relates to the disclaimer at the beginning of the report. I believe it's in the overview, where it states the after-action report is intended solely as an internal improvement document for Los Angeles Police Department. Information, statistics, and data are presented for context only and should not be interpreted as the definitive or official statistical record of the June 2025 federal ICE protests. I'm wondering if you could help us better understand what that means in terms of this report memorializing certain facts and statistics.
Oh, thank you, Commissioner. The purpose of that statement, and as held through the document, is that we do purport arrest statistics, specifically in the chronology. I put through the arrest statistics as they're seen through the incident management teams as they go. They do not coincide with the reconciled total at the end. So that is a difference. I do call that out specifically, but I want to be clear that arrests, complaints, uses of force, civil litigation, et cetera, follow separate administrative paths, or on the civil side, separate legal proceedings that fall outside of this. This report was completed several months ago. Things change, and they're very apt to change. I didn't want to misstate anything or have this be that which could be final and definitive to those other disparate entities. For instance, how many uses of force occurred, how many complaints occurred. I don't have access to that, and it would take a long time for those to be final reconciled. The idea with this after action is to have the information out in advance of the final statistical tallies. And if there were such specific requests, those requests would follow through those specific entities.
And then to follow up on that, Commissioner, so for this, after this incident took place, there was a task force formed for Professional Standards Bureau that handled all the complaints that came as a result of these protests. And as much as Professional Standards Bureau, once these complaints are adjudicated, which usually takes a year or over a year, depending if the complaint is told, they do post on their public disposition of complaints on our LAPD online website. I believe that's the one. Prior to this commission meeting, I looked online to see what was the latest report of our complaint dispositions, and it was June 2026 was the latest. So we do that on a regular basis to cover the complaints and the public disposition of those personnel complaints, which will include complaints that came as a result of these protest activities. In addition to that, when we're talking about use of force, I think later on, or maybe it's already been presented, the use of force year-end review report that is presented to the commission. It is a volumental task. It's a manual that's 300 pages or so, and it includes categorical uses of force, non-categorical uses of force, and it covers all of the uses of force that happened the previous year, and now that is also public domain. So that's when we're saying, those take a different path, a different route from this after action.
Thank you for the clarification. I have just a couple more questions. With respect to there are references to, on page 3 and elsewhere of the report, to the No King's Day rally and events, I believe of June 14th, which happened to coincide with the second deployment of chemical agents. Could you please clarify whether this report is commenting on that protest or the rally and the events of that day being somehow the problematic in leading to the deployment of the chemical agents, or was it an offshoot? Was it actors that broke off from that? But the reference to the No King's Day event and of that day rally, I'm not entirely clear on the context of those references.
And are you referring to the use of the chemical agents on that
Yes,
specific
yes. Was that in connection with the No King's Day events? Was it an offshoot where the chemical agents were deployed?
thing? It was related, the same day, same event, and as often the case, there are a lot of splinter groups that break off from a peaceful demonstration, and then the bad actors, have a different direction. So this deployment of chemical agents on June 14th was a group that potentially broke off from the No Kings Parade demonstration, which then became violent and then necessitated the use of chemical agents in downtown LA.
So generally speaking, with the No King's Day events, rally, protests, et cetera, peaceful protest in your view, or is this not meant to comment on that? Because it appears as though it may be perceived that way, as the No King's Day events were somehow generating some of the response.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Commissioner. If there is an inference, it's accidental and it shouldn't be. The No King's Day event was planned outside of the department. I don't even know the sequence of their planning or events or what they did. It marked it or noted it because it was a notable day in that it was a nationwide and it was a call to bring people out. And then the city of Los Angeles, 20,000 people did show up. I don't know if they're all associated with that particular event or what the intent of that event was. It just happened to coincide with the largest number of people that we had that day, which happened to also coincide with some unlawful activity that we did use chemical agents that day. But there's no direct link between those things.
Okay, thank you. And then one other question related to the use of the chemical agents is that it appears that on the 14th, there was less, it's about 30 minutes, I believe it said, before the chemical agents were deployed following some activity, rock throwing, et cetera, from certain actors in the crowd. And I believe a Nixle alert was mentioned. Was that in conjunction with, prior to, after a dispersal order on the 14th? And so basically to confirm that a dispersal order was issued. And secondly, the Nixle alert, was that in conjunction with it or in place of it?
Thank you, Commissioner. As captured in the chronological section, start in the area of approximately the Los Angeles Mall. At 15:45 or 3:45 p.m., the Los Angeles Police Department and the Sheriff's Department both issued dispersals. Those dispersals occurred in English and in Spanish. At 16:10 hours or 4:20 p.m., at 4:08, the incident commander authorized the use of chemical agents. At 4:10, they were deployed. In referring to the chronology, immediately following the dispersal order by the Los Angeles Police Department, hostile actions were taken to include throwing of devices at officers, and immediately upon that conclusion, the execution of the gas occurred in the sequence that followed that. What preceded that, which you'd mentioned, what came after all of that was a Nixle alert from our city's emergency management department in the area, notifying people that were in the area that chemical agents could be used or were used. So that was something that trailed the first sequence of deployment. As a notice to the public who may traverse the area that this was occurring.
Thank you. And a Nixle alert is issued electronically, is that correct, through cell phones?
Yes, it's, from my understanding, a geofenced area that can send an emergency alert to anyone in that area, something similar to that. So that's what was done subsequent to this.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for the report. And I have a few different questions that I'll go through, but I just kind of wanted to mention how 2025 was very difficult for Los Angeles as a whole, and you mentioned that that the department had been deployed almost like 6 months at the Pacific Palisades fire. and I feel like we were just about to get over that, and then the unprecedented federal immigration enforcement started happening in Los Angeles, and so we already had a very stretched thin department that was operating on citywide tactical alerts and overtime and all of these things, and then we went into this. And so understand the very difficult time and emotional time for the city as a whole and the community as a whole. And then, the reactions that were happening. And I think a number of people who came out to peacefully protest and peacefully share their views. And then the journalists who were wanting to document that, right? So there's a lot of things that I want to make sure, we recognize that it was a very challenging time. And I want to make sure that the department, gets it right for future events. And, I don't think all agencies do after action reports for events. I think the LAPD is unique in that regard. And it obviously gives people something to attack and criticize because you're putting down your thoughts. And Lieutenant Franson, I appreciate how difficult it must have been for you to try to get your arms around all of this for someone who was not directly involved. And so and I understand that part of the after action is trying to get someone a little disinterested, not involved in command staff, to draft it. So I appreciate the difficult position that you were in to try to put this all together and appreciate that. But I do want to also say, where I see areas for improvement, and I'll take this report as kind of beginning the conversation or really continuing a conversation that we have been having. Because as you mentioned, we did have some presentations to the commission about crowd control management tactics, and also with particularly responding to media and interactions with media. And the department is currently in the process of revising the media policy to make sure that it aligns with the current law and current best practices. And there was also discussion about additional, materials that could potentially be given to officers so that in the moment, if they have a pocket guard or something to help that. But I take, Commissioner Scobin's recommendation about having more of a dialogue with members of the media and the department so that they can work together. And I see this as a little separate and apart from your report, but I think it's all kind of connected to it. So I just want to make sure that this is not just the end all be all of this conversation, and particularly things that I would actually want some supplemental information on, and whether that's incorporated in this version or done as a separate supplemental report. And you mentioned that there were 3 separate after action reports that came out of the 2020 protests. And I think one way that we should be looking at after action reports is not as a silo, right? It's not just what happened on this days and what can we learn from these events, especially when we've had other recommendations in this specific area, right? So I think looking at, how did any actions improve from the 3 after action report recommendations? Were some of those recommendations actually implemented and helpful? And where is there kind of the recurring issue that, hey, they called this out back in 2020 and it hasn't been addressed or hasn't fully functioned properly? I'd like the department to look at that issue just to see what are the recommendations that came out of those earlier ones and where are we going? Were they fully incorporated for the 2025 protests, and where can we be moving forward? So a little bit more analysis on that historical piece would be helpful for me to understand, what the department is learning. And again, we're wanting to continuously learn from the actions and not forget about things that happened 5 years ago or however long ago. The other thing is, I do think that the commission should be revisiting and, getting additional information and analysis. And I'll look to Executive Director Sibley to help us kind of coordinate this on, the policies related to crowd control management and ensuring that they're kind of up to best standards, including, the time and use of chemical agents, less lethal, when children are involved, the factors that go into all that. Those are things I think that the commission should pay a particular attention to. And that also including the treatment of journalists, which we've already kind of started that process. And another thing that, that stood out to me in the reports is there isn't a discussion about, how many people were injured, or there was some discussion about the logistics of, like, do you declare it as a personnel report or is it an injury report? It would be helpful for the commission to understand what are we talking about? What's the volume? What kinds of injuries is this relating to? And I understand, Lieutenant Franson, that you may not have had that complete information because it's outside in different parts of the department, but I think for supplemental presentation and report, that information would be helpful for us as commissioners to analyze this. And that also goes to, like, the personnel reports. And I've, as I mentioned earlier, I've asked the Inspector General's office to review the department's adjudication of the complaints relating to the interactions with the media. And so I think, combining efforts once that review is done to also have this additional information would be helpful. And also just knowing, when there were those injury reports that were done and it's unclear what agency, or maybe you determine it was actually another agency, is there any follow-up? Especially when we're having a unified command, we're asking for help with other agencies. Is there kind of a feedback loop with those other agencies to say, hey, here's what we're seeing, or here's complaints we received, but this relates to your officers? I think that type of relationship and mutual aid, I think, is important. And also just understanding again, how much use of force was used. What are we looking at? How many times? And I know that these are all parts of discrete reporting, but I think it helps us as the commission and the oversight and, the community when we aggregate that information so that we have a better understanding of, the impact of these protests, and so that we have a better understanding as we're looking at, policies and what types of trainings and tools we think is best, that we have that full picture in mind. And I do think, especially given that this is a report that's going to, department members and other things like that, and it's a historical piece, I think indicating the fact that there was an injunction granted by a judge is an important thing. There were, and I know that stems out of different lawsuits or other things, but I think that information all needs to be collated, and including Commander Mota, the steps that the department took immediately to try to remedy those things. Again, if you all are not here the next time a big incident happens, they don't have the institutional knowledge when they pick up this report to know all of the things that have happened. And so again, I appreciate that, again, like the role of this specific report, but I think that's why I think we need something more to supplement what we have here. And again, I appreciate all the recommendations regarding, like, the pre-planning efforts and staging and, mutual aid, all of that. So I think there's some good recommendations in there, but I think that it would be helpful, at least for me, and I don't know if my fellow commissioners agree, for some supplemental information so we have a much more holistic picture, so that hopefully we move from, next, any future actions, and we best understand them. Chief, do you have any Comments?
Just a couple of comments, if I could. Thank you to our team and the many people who worked on putting this together. It is instructive on a number of levels as far as us moving forward. Thank you on the commission for your interest in this and your look at making us better each and every day. As to looking at 2020 and other points in LAPD history, we do that. We dig into it very heavily. We also dig into what happens in other cities and jurisdictions around the country to be able to get whatever lessons learned that we could then implement here, or at least evaluate them for potential implementation here. I will say that this was unprecedented on so many levels, what we saw last June. The ICE enforcement, we had never seen anything like that. The lack of sharing of information, we had not seen that before. So we were at a disadvantage as to try and anticipate what would happen next, how long the duration of this would be. That was something when we talk about the staging areas, the command posts, that was something that was a constantly moving target for us. And we adapted as best we could as we went. The level of violence, I have not seen that. I've been doing this 45 years. I have not seen that here or anywhere in the country where we saw officers being, and again, the crowd overall, most people came out and exercised their First Amendment rights. A relative handful to the size of the crowd were exceptionally violent. The use of pieces of curb broken off to throw at officers, the Molotov cocktails, using vehicles to go smash into skirmish lines, using commercial-grade fireworks to fire at officers on the skirmish line. That is potentially a deadly force situation. Thank God it didn't go that way. We were able to use the chemical agent. We were able to use less lethal in a way we were able to disperse that and stop the threat. But the level of violence was unprecedented as far as a crowd management or a crowd control situation. We had over 50 of our officers injured during this period of time. So we come away from this, I think, with some lessons learned, but I also think it's important we provide the context for what our people went through. And as you mentioned, one disaster after another last year, fires, floods, mudslides, the unrest, the enforcement, and then throughout the duration of the year and into this year, then demonstrations on a multi-weekly basis. So again, thank you to the commission and thank you to everybody involved in this and to our sworn and professional staff who got through last year in a way that I am very proud of.
Thank you. And thank you for also mentioning kind of like the looking elsewhere also for best practices. And that was another recommendation I was going to have too, in terms of, especially with our mutual aid partners, it would be helpful to make sure that we're sharing kind of our lessons learned with them, and hopefully they're sharing with you as well, so that when you're under a unified command, you're all operating on the same page and understand the same things. So do any of my fellow commissioners have any additional questions or comments? Okay, wonderful. With that, then I would move that we approve the report with the caveat that there will be a request for a supplemental report, and also allow this to be transmitted to City Council. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
You guys get millions of dollars. There is video.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you.
Proof everything that they just said. Look at the video. Look at their body cam video.
Ma'am, you've had an opportunity to speak.
As a constituent, as someone who pays the taxes.
And
Look at the video.
the commission will now recess into closed session.
There is video.
The commission has returned from closed session, and I'll ask the executive director, Mr. Sibley, to please report on the closed session items.
Thank you, Madam President. So items 6A1 and 6A2. At the regular meeting of the Board of Police Commissioners on August 11, 2026, during the closed session, the board made the following findings, in each case by a 4-0 vote. So item 6A1, which is officer-involved shooting 043-25. For tactics, tactical debrief, 2 police officers 2. For drawing and exhibition of a firearm, in policy, no further action, 2 police officers 2. And for lethal use of force, in policy, no further action, 2 police officers 2. And then going to item 6A2, which is officer-involved shooting 044-25. The findings were as follows. For tactics, tactical debrief, 4 police officers, 2. Administrative disapproval, 1 sergeant 1 and 2 police officers 2. For drawing and exhibition of a firearm, in policy, no further action, 6 police officers 2. And for the lethal use of force, in policy, no further action, 2 police officers 2. And that concludes the report out, Madam President.
Thank you. I move to adjourn the meeting. Is there a second? Second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.